Imagine a hero shooter where the hero never showed. Imagine a game with a player base that just refused to grow. A 5v5 hero shooter with gameplay that's just okay, and characters that remind me of Tupperware and white bread. No, I'm not talking about Overwatch. Please stop bringing up Overwatch. This game is not Overwatch. It's actually something else. Imagine a game with a story that no one watches. A game that costs $40 that Sony totally botches. It has all my favorite characters, like Lemmy, Dawn, and Craig. At least, I think that's what their names are. I never bothered to check. Concord like the grave, your legacy is safe. As a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Boop-a-doop-ba, beep-a-doop-da, scoop-a-boop-ba, beep-beep-beep-beep-beep, phlegm. Concord was about as good as accidentally peeing on your own leg. Concord, we're here to lay you to rest. We know you tried your best. You copied so much cool stuff just to turn out lame in the end. I'll never forget my favorite moments, like when Hot Sauce Guy jumped. Remember when he jumped? That was really cool. A rat just ran by on my desk, and even the rat didn't want to play Concord, even though I blessed him with the chance. The $40 he could afford, but the rat just stared on in a trance. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. The Costco guys made more money than you. They were just on Jimmy Fallon too. Imagine Lennox being on Jimmy Fallon, because I literally can't. The rat on my desk is eating all my Cheerios and grapes, and also Concord is dead. Concord like the grave, your legacy is safe. As a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Rat-a-ta-ta-beep-a-da, boop. Skim, milk, the rat fleet, doo-da, doo-da. A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face. That's the sound he made when Concord passed away. I wish things turned out different, but either way I'm getting paid. Concord's dead, Concord's dead, and boy is my face red. When the game came out, everybody overslept. Concord's dead, Concord's dead. Holy crap, Lois, Concord's dead. When the game out, people played everything else instead.
They sure did. They sure did. But you know what? We can still remember it, cherish it, hold it near and dear in our hearts, so it's never forgotten. We can also wear t-shirts for it, which is what I'm doing today, representing, I'll align it, representing with my Concord t-shirt. I am back, everyone. I've missed you terribly. It's been a long week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it's been. It's been too long. I've been going crazy. I am still technically recovering, as you can probably hear, from my illness, but I could not wait any longer. So I'm here, doped up on all sorts of medications. I got my tea. I got big old bottle of water. We're gonna go for it. Who knows how long the stream will be? Probably not as long as I would like it to be, but I want to talk about games. I want to do stuff. So that's what we're going to do. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. Basically, I got back from our trip, and I started with just like a dry cough, but then I in the span of 18 hours or so, completely lost my voice to the point where I would try to talk and it would just be I could not talk. And then as the next couple of days went by, the voice started to recover, but then it turned into like a really heavy cough. like deep in my lungs, and it's just been very, very weird. And so I initially went to the doctor, and they were like, yeah, it looks like laryngitis. Basically just your larynx is super inflamed, so you can't talk, you lost your voice, that's probably what's going on. But now it looks like maybe it was a combination of that and something else, or it was just some novel virus going around. Who knows? But either way, we are here, we're getting better, and we should be good. What's weird is I will be aggressive with the mute button today to try and mute the coughing. What's weird is my wife and kids, totally fine. Like, hasn't affected them at all. I've been like dying, and they're just like, we're good. I guess maybe they just have better immune systems than me. I don't know. I joked with them. I was like, yeah, I don't get out much. That's probably why. Like, I just don't get out much. But either way, we're back. We're vibing, and I'm not gonna push it too hard. If I start to feel my voice getting sore, I will pump the brakes, and we'll just come back hopefully tomorrow and stream again, because I have a lot of stuff I want to catch up on and get through. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Let's be honest, it's because you touched grass. Yeah, I'm starting to think that's what it is. Never again. Tea with honey? Yes, I got it right here, my friend. Right here, rocking and rolling. Tea with honey. I got a big bottle of water. I've taken my decongestant. I've taken the cough suppressant. I've taken all that stuff. So I'm loaded up. Have I been able to play Dispatch? Not yet. I actually downloaded it to the PlayStation 5 up in the living room, and I was going to start going through it with Nikki. Probably tonight we're going to do the first episode. I've heard really good things about it. Have any of you guys tried Dispatch? If you guys don't know what Dispatch is, it's that Dispatch game. It's that game from former Telltale developers.
So,
like Critical Role guys.
Takes you into a trap where he destroys the Mecha Man suit and puts you in a coma for months.
I didn't hear a question in there.
Does this mean you're finished?
Can you repair your
Mecha Man!
Up next, is Mecha Man a mecha quitter?
Figured my story would always end in that suit.
Like, it's a vibe, dude. It's a vibe. So if you've not seen that, I recommend you check it out. It's $30. They're doing it episodically, which isn't my favorite, but all the episodes, as I understand it, are included in that 30. They've got a bunch of like YouTubers you probably know, like Moist Critical voices a character in it. Do they have the full cast list? Yeah, Aaron Paul is in it. Aaron Paul, Laura Bailey, Jacksepticeye, Alana Pierce, Matt Mercer, Lance Kanstopoulos, Thought Squad Joel, Moist Critical, Jeffrey Wright, like a lot of people, dude. A lot of people. So why am I not in this game? Great question. Great question. We should start complaining. I could get up there and just be like, hey guys, it's me. Okay, some of the comments on the recent video were genuinely pretty funny. I mean, most people were like, oh, hope you feel better, Luke. Hope you get better. Some of those comments, though, dude, I was cracking up. Let me see. Let's see. Which one was it? Was it Outer Worlds? Oh, no, I think it was the Assassin's Creed one. Because this is what my voice sounded like 4 days ago, okay?
In the last week or so with Assassin's Creed, and I want to talk about it despite sounding like a 90-year-old chain-smoking grandma.
And that's right before I completely lost my voice. So I got back from the airport, a handful of hours went by, and my voice went from normal to that in the span of a handful of hours. And then like the next day I had no voice at all. But some of these comments, dude, bro dropped a vid with the goblin voice. That's commitment to the game. A gaming video and an anti-smoking ad all in one. That's crazy. Sounds like Luke hit puberty. Luke Stevens, old grandma ASMR, not on my 2025 bingo. Let's see. Yeah, coming to a cinema near you voice. Yeah. Oh, this was the one that I died. So a lot has happened. He starts saying with an RFK Jr. like voice.
a lot has happened with Assassin's Creed. I'm gonna tell you all about it. You can't play Assassin's Creed because of the aluminum. You can't do it. I'm so glad to have a voice back. I will tell you, you don't realize how much you talk until you can't talk at all. You know, it makes you really appreciate having a voice. Really, really appreciate it, especially when you do this for a living and you ramble for a living. But either way, I'm glad to be back. That's what happens when you drink candles. Exactly, Ian. Exactly. Let my story be a warning to you. Kaito, thank you for the 8 months of membership up front before we even started streaming. Glad there weren't any major, oh, here, I can turn this on. Glad there weren't any major game announcements while you were recovering. Yeah, I always joke, Nikki makes fun of me because whenever I travel, I bring my big camera and I bring microphones and stuff and lights. And she's always like, you don't need to bring all of that stuff. Like, you'll just cover whatever happens when you get back. And I'm like, every time I go on a trip, something major happens. Like, every time. That's just how it works. So it's just luck of the draw. Caleb, thank you for 16 months. Well, finally back. I see what was working 3 days. Oh, I see what was working 3 days a week for 4 hours. Too rough for you and you need a break. Glad you're feeling better. Yeah, I mean, it's in the words of lots of streamers, my life is way harder than yours. Yeah, it's really hard sitting in a chair, drinking tea, talking about video games all day. It's just, I have it really hard is what I'm saying. Basically, my life is really difficult. I'm joking for all the people that can't pick up on chain smoking sarcasm. Hannah, thank you for 5 months, by the way. Thank you. Glad you're doing better, Luke. Don't push it. If you need a break, take one. Oh yeah, much love to you. I'm feeling better, and what's been particularly frustrating about all this is that, like, my body feels totally fine. It's literally just been my voice, and in the last day or two, it's also been like my lungs are really, really tight. But other than that, like, I feel totally fine. I wake up and I want to sit on stream. I want to talk about stuff, but like my voice literally couldn't do it. So there you go. But either way, we're going to talk about some stuff and go through it today because a lot has actually happened. Everything from Halo to Assassin's Creed developments to Xbox, and there's just all sorts of stuff. But maybe the first one that we could talk about were actually some leaks that just dropped yesterday, I think. Yeah, yesterday. I'm not sure if you guys saw it.
Let's Chat M with Jay donated $19.99 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Hey Luke, it's been a bit. Hope you are well. Just wanted to say I am so happy and surprised with the OW2. It's Aomi amazing NG choice and consequences, especially on replay.
Oh wait, it stopped reading. It's some amazing choice and consequence, especially in replay. Companion is quite good compared to Avowed. Yeah, I've been having a really good time with it, honestly. Outer Worlds 2, I was kind of braced for it to be kind of just Avowed, but in space. But it's actually, I think, struck a better tone, and it feels much less disjointed. Because Avowed started as a multiplayer game, and then turned to single player. Or I think it started as single player, turned to multiplayer, and then it turned back to single player. Very similar story to what happened with Dragon Age Veilguard, actually. And you can still kind of feel that the way the game is structured. It's built out kind of like a multiplayer game. But Outer Worlds 2, you can tell, was built from the ground up as a single player RPG, and it works way better, I think, as that. Melissa, gee whiz, 5 gifted memberships to the community. Thank you. Very generous. Thank you. Welcome everybody who just got those memberships. Welcome. Wonderful. Thank you. That's fantastic. It's wonderful. Crimson Desert. Yeah, dude, it keeps looking better and better. We'll see if we have time to talk about it. Okay, so this is what I wanted to touch on first. First thing. Oh, Roundtable Conference, by the way. Thank you for the sub. Luke, have you seen the trailer for Project Tal? Looks insane. Dude, I'm telling you, a lot of those Eastern development studios, they're going to come out swinging with stuff that's going to make it look like nobody else is even trying. Like, it's mind-blowing, but it's Project Tal. There was the other one. There's actually a number of them. There's the one that kind of looked like God of War, and then there was the other one that was based on the Arthurian legend Like there's going to be a lot of them. There's going to be a lot of games in the next 5 years coming from Eastern studios you've never heard of, and they are so impressive. It makes it look like all these other big studios aren't even trying. It's crazy. It really is. But anyway, let's touch on this real quick. Let's touch on this real quick. New sort of segment. Bah. So, if you were not aware, Blue Point Games, the guys behind the Demon Souls remake, and I mean, they're really just the goats of remakes at the end of the day. They were working on a God of War game before it was recently canceled. And at the time, like, we were all trying to figure out what they were working on, because we knew that a lot of studios under Sony's umbrella were working on stuff. We just didn't know what. So we knew like Sony Bend was working on something super secret. We knew Blue Point was working on something super secret. A lot of us were hoping it was like a Bloodborne remake or remaster or something. Or maybe they even got handed the keys to do like a spin-off game or something. But then they were canceled, and when they were canceled, it was revealed that Blue Point had actually been assigned to work on a God of War multiplayer live service game. And Sony decided to cancel it because they were not confident in the longevity of the project. In other words, they thought that they could get the game out, but they weren't sure if it would be something people would play for months or years. It seemed like something they might play for like a week or two, but they weren't confident people would stick with it. Well, that happened months ago, and it looks like at the start of the year is when it was initially reported on, as you can see here. And after it was reported on and canceled, everybody just kind of went about their business. Sony Bend went on and is now currently working on a new project. Blue Point's working on a new project. It looks like it's a third-person melee combat game, possibly still multiplayer. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed or not. But since all this happened, we've actually gotten some leaks that just dropped showcasing what this would have looked like, at least in the environments. And there's a few hints we can take from it to figure out what this would have looked like. So the screenshots from the project that were shared with us offer a good glance at the early stage of development, showing some assets and environments that were being worked on for the title. The first noticeable detail that we can get by looking at the gallery is that the game was clearly planned to return to the Greek setting. This is evidenced by the presence of Greek temples, classic artifacts such as pottery, and other details we will discuss later. And these are some of those environmental screenshots. Now, where these screenshots came from, most likely, I mean, these look like pretty straightforward, kind of sizzle reel screenshots. Maybe environmental artists took these to showcase their work, put on resumes eventually. But one of the things that you'll see them discuss in a moment is this comparison, because you see this environment, this is the same one as this next screenshot, but in this next one, it's all covered in this like red rot all up and along the wall. So there's no red rot here up by the axes, but then here it's covered in red rot. There's the big hole that's now covered in this red something. It's not quite blood. There's also these like tendrils on the floor. It's not really clear. But they go on. They showcase some other stuff like various assets that would have been plopped in to different environments, temples that were designed, things like that. This is all much earlier on. You can see these aren't even textured yet. So all different stages of development on these things. Let's see, another interesting detail.
Artificially Stupid Intelligence donated $10
Oh, what a name.
through Super
Thank you.
Chat. Can you talk about the future of 600th games depending on who buys WB? Will the Saudis buy it as well? James Gunn needs to hire some PPL to rebrand the game side. He knows games.
You wrote Lollipop Chainsaw. We can talk about that in a moment. I have some stories pulled up on that. So put a pin in it. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I will circle back to that, okay? Okay? Thank you. Appreciate you. We'll circle back to it. So he continues on. Another interesting detail for those familiar with the lore is the apparent inclusion of the god Hades, at least in name. We were told that Hades would have been the owner of the armory, as well as the yellow sulfur pools visible in the caverns. So if the game was meant to fit into the established canon at all, the involvement of a living Hades suggests a timeline prior to the events of God of War 3. That's if this game was meant to be canon in any way. Otherwise, it could have been an anything goes kind of thing, not connected to the main God of War continuity beyond the name. Another interesting thing to note is the clear Greek-inspired architecture evident in the buildings, but some environments look like they were plucked from God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. There appears to be a female statue holding a mask, which reminded us of the statues in the original God of War games, though we aren't sure whether a god is associated with wearing a mask. Then there's what appears to be the statues of possibly soldiers holding a spear, a shield and spear, something that would associate with Spartans, but their appearance also comes off as that of the Einahar, the Norse warriors who reside in Valhalla in God of War Ragnarok. You can see also several weapons on display that have a hint of green, which reminds us of the little weapons, a little of the weapons the Berserkers and other enemies use in 2018 in Ragnarok. And then you can see this is the cursed state versus the regular state between the red rot and then the regular environments, which is interesting. This state is described as the curse on the armory, suggesting it could have inflicted negative status effects on players when they were inside. But at the end of the day, as you can see described here, in the end, PlayStation lacked confidence in the game's long-term viability. This game, or this move, is understandable considering the poor reception of most live service proposals received from PlayStation fans, especially given the fairly recent example of Concord. I get it. And this is one of the things that I think unfortunately is going to be one of the tales of the PS5 era, is just the fundamental misunderstanding on the part of Jim Ryan when it comes to live service versus single player. I think he really thought if you just have world-class studios and then you assign them to make a multiplayer game, they will make a world-class live service game. But that's not how that works. It's totally different. Just because somebody was able to make a world-class single-player narrative game does not mean that they will have what it takes to make a world-class multiplayer live service ever-evolving thing. Like they're just fundamentally different. They're just different. And it takes a lot of different expertise. It takes a lot of just technical difference because, of course, just on the networking side, there's a lot more complexity there. And then it's a very different type of game. I mean, on the one hand, you're crafting a story that you're trying to find and craft in a compelling and emotional way that's impactful and resonates with people. And on the other hand, with live service stuff, it's much more about psychology. It's much more about finding ways to like hook people and find a way to get into their routine and give them enough dopamine that they're satisfied and they come back for more, but not too much and satisfy them to the point where they don't need to play anymore. It's a much more manipulative thing, and it's quite difficult. They say now it's reported that Bluepoint has started work on another project, a third-person melee action game, according to job listings. The possibilities for the subject of the next project are wide, but the most hopeful Bluepoint fans are proposing a remake of the original God of War, a project many God of War enthusiasts have been requesting for years. Basically, the description of everything that they outlined in their job postings, as you can see here, senior combat designer. This is on a contracted position. It would be a remote job, but this job is described as creating high-level character design, intent, combat flow plans, and respective systems, focus on character designs and mechanics from concept to implementation, tune key aspects of the game, including AI gameplay, character balance, and controls, create and manage state mechanics, and logic scripting systems, collaborate with code and art teams to refine tools, features, and processes, and they go through some of the other things that they expect from it. But fundamentally, solid understanding of combat systems and mechanics for third-person melee action experiences, which sounds like it could be a God of War remake or remaster or something like that. I think it'd make more money than trying to do a premium live service God of War thing, but you know, I guess time will tell what they're actually working on. But unfortunately, this is just a tale as old as time once more of trying to make a live service game from a team that's very good at single player stuff, and it just ends up wasting years of development and millions of dollars.
Arkham Vigilante donated $20 through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Hey Luke, just finished Yote, really thought everything was better than Tsushima except the story. If they do DLC, I hope it's more of a backstory of Atsu in that war or growing up on the streets, since I think her story is over.
Yeah, I agree. I think they could do some interesting stuff there. And I mean, overall sentiment wise, I think, yeah, in terms of mechanics, in terms of presentation, Yote is better than Tsushima in pretty much every way. It checks off all those boxes and dials up all the knobs. But I still think that the story of Tsushima is far superior, and I just like Jin way more as a protagonist. You know, it's not that Atsu is necessarily bad, it's just that Jin was so good that it's not even on the same level. But it's like I said in my initial I Tried video, I was like, it's not even necessarily a diss on Yotei. It's more of a big compliment to Tsushima at how much I like Jin over Atsu. But thank you for the 20. Thank you for the 20. I am excited to see what they do with it moving forward. I know that they're going to have a lot of post-launch content. So yeah. Chanster, thank you for the sub over on Twitch. Glad you're back, Lukler. With Shadows coming now to Switch 2, it seems like Ubisoft is wanting to push their new games to the console. No one had on their 2025 bingo card that Ubi would be some of the best looking and performing ports on the console so far. When they put their minds to it, like Ubisoft does have some impressive tech that's very scalable. It's just about, you know, whether they give their developers time to work on it. It's the same thing I've said for a long time, which is that Ubisoft's tech has some of the most impressive streaming and like memory management stuff of any engine or systems that I'm aware of. Like the fact that in a game like AC Origins, which was running on old hard drive based consoles, in AC Origins, you could pop up, you know, the bird and do the eagle view, and then fly all the way across the entire map, the entire country of Egypt. You fly to the south end of the map, and then you close that down and you warp right back to Bayek on the north side of the map in Alexandria. And it takes maybe a second to load that back. Like, that is insane. But that's something that they were able to do back in 2017. Their data management and streaming software and pipelines are crazy impressive. It's just whether they give developers time enough to do it. And unfortunately for Ubisoft, they just every 5 to 7 years kind of get in this position where they think that they just don't need to try anymore and they can just shove stuff out, and then it doesn't go that well. But when they give devs time to work on stuff, they can do some really, really impressive stuff. And I've heard the Switch ports are also very impressive. I've also heard that the Cyberpunk Switch port is also really impressive, but I haven't seen that or put my hands on it personally, so I'm not sure. But from what I've seen, it's pretty impressive. Let's see. OMG, it's Elijah. Thank you for that sub for 6 months. Oh, baby, over on Twitch. What have you been playing, Luke? Currently, I'm trying to juggle Battlefield 6, Ball X Pit, Ghost, and KCD2 Hardcore, and Arc Raiders in 2 days. Too many games, dude, for real. I have been playing, of course, Outer Worlds 2, as I mentioned at the top. I have started a new... we went back in actually Civ 5. We bought all the DLC for it, got them on sale. And so me and my wife have been playing in the evenings some matches of Civ 5, which is just like a good old throwback. It's one of our guilty pleasure games. It's just go grind out some Civilization. And so we've been doing that. Like I said, tonight, my hope is that we can start going through Dispatch and try that. What else? What else is there? There's probably more, but those are the ones that jump out to me. Yeah, too many games. Too many games. For real. For real. Okay. Outer Worlds 2, did I say? I thought I said Outer Worlds 2. Did I not say Outer Worlds 2? I thought that's what I said first. But yeah, Outer Worlds 2, like Civ 5, we've been doing we're going to do Dispatch tonight. Something else. Sorry, my brain is fried. But yeah. No, Outer Worlds 2. Yes. Okay. Let's see. The artificial stupid intelligence with that super chat asking about Warner Brothers. I do want to touch on that again. Ross McGowan, thank you for the super chat as well. Thank you, my friend. And let's see. Okay, the let me just pull up these tabs that I had bookmarked for the Warner Brothers stuff. Okay. New sort of segment. So we all know that Warner Brothers has been in a financially desperate position for a while. In my opinion, they've been horribly mismanaged for a very long time, and their current CEO is kind of a bumbling buffoon, mismanaging pretty much every facet of the business. But they did officially announce about a week ago that they are officially considering acquisition offers. They are launching a comprehensive review of strategic alternatives for a whole or partial sale of the company. Basically just saying, we don't really know how to save this. We're like, can somebody come and buy chunks of us or all of us, and we'll just call it quits. Go from there. Excuse me, I can't laugh or my lungs will explode. David Zaslav said, it's no surprise that the significant value of our portfolio is receiving increased recognition by others in the market. After receiving interest from multiple parties, we have initiated a comprehensive review of strategic alternatives to identify the best path forward to unlock the full potential value of our assets. And this is something that Warner Brothers has dealt with. Funnily enough, Ubisoft has also dealt with it. Where like Ubisoft, for example, a couple of years back, they had a firm evaluate the value of the Assassin's Creed franchise, Far Cry and Rainbow, and they estimated that the value of those IP was like $7 billion roughly. That's what they should be worth. But all of Ubisoft was trading at like $1.5 billion. So it's like, where's the other $5.5 billion? Like, where is that value? Why is there this big gap? They own those IP that should be worth this much. Why is the whole firm that owns all of that worth even less? And it's because of the penalty of mismanagement. That's what they should be worth. It's not what they are worth because of mismanagement and lack of taking advantage of it, knowing how to utilize those IP. And with Warner Brothers, it's the identical situation. Warner Brothers owns some of the biggest IP in the world, and they cannot, for the life of them, find a way to monetize it with consistently high quality products, games, and execution. They just are terrible at it. And so now, instead of, they've tried for a little bit to find ways to fix it, but now they're just opening it up and saying, okay, well, we'll open it up. And if you guys want to buy something from us, we can do this. There's a lot of potential buyers. There's a lot of people investigating it behind the scenes. The people that are most interested, you probably will not hear from because they will be making offers and negotiating behind the scenes. Sony president and CEO Hiroki Totoki said, we have no desire for big merger and acquisition deals in the US film industry right now. Simply adding together the current movie studios doesn't strike me as leading to a big gain in profitability. And basically he's just saying, we're good, we don't need it, and signaling to investors that they're not going to try to scoop in and or swoop in and buy it out, which honestly is probably the right move. I think Sony is struggling enough already to get their ducks in a row. Hiroki Totoki, his big thing is margins. When he was doing an interview with a financial analyst outlet, they were like, what's your thing? Basically, like, what's your primary focus when you come into a new division of the company and you're evaluating what's going on? He said, margins. It's always margin. That's what I'm focused on. And he's the same guy that seemingly pushed out Jim Ryan, because he did a comprehensive review of PlayStation's operations a few years back and found that their margins were pitiful, and like it's basically responsible for a lot of the cancellations, reworkings, restructurings and stuff that have happened within PlayStation over the last few years. So he's not interested in it, but Warner Brothers is still looking for potential buyers and shopping around. Artificially Stupid Intelligence gave a very generous $10 super chat earlier in the stream saying, can you talk about the future of DC games depending on who buys Warner Brothers? Will the Saudis buy it as well? James Gunn needs to hire some people to rebrand the game side. He knows games. He wrote Lollipop Chainsaw. And I do think that they're going to shop it to all sorts of people. The Saudi investment fund could go and try to buy them. Historically, the Saudi private investment fund, they like to buy things in partnership with others. Just historically, they don't like to run things themselves. They like to have a partner that runs it, and they just kind of bankroll it. So they might go and offer to buy it in tandem with, like, I don't know, Ubisoft or something. But whether that actually happens or not remains to be seen. I do think that there's a lot of potential there. Whoever can buy out the rights to make like Batman games, and I think Embracer now owns Lord of the Rings games and stuff, but you buy the rights to Harry Potter games, you'd buy the rights to all that. You can make a ton of money on those IP. Absolutely. It just has to be in the hands of capable developers. Now, how much they're looking for it remains to be seen. That's a huge question mark. But I think if they are capable, you could absolutely see a lot of value unlocked if in the hands of the right developers. My fear is that it's going to be bought out by one of these like big conglomerates that are just going to use it to pump out mobile games and all sorts of garbage, and it's going to be terrible. But time will tell. Time will tell. Most likely buyers, I could see it going to maybe, like, I could see Embracer wanting to buy up the rights to it because Embracer already has Lord of the Rings. So they'd probably be interested in buying more rights to more IP, and they could even license it out from there. But I could see that. Microsoft, I think they're pretty much done with spending big chunks of change on gaming stuff right now because AI is all the craze. So that's where all the money's going. Yeah, Skydance, Paramount have had 2 bids rejected by Warner Brothers. Yeah, they've made offers on stuff. I think they offered to buy out the entire company, if I recall correctly, but I don't think that they've actually investigated buying just the rights to the games. So that's the other option, is that it might not be that just the games rights are bought out. It might also be that somebody comes and buys all of Warner Brothers, including the game studios. And my other fear with that is that you remember what happened with Bob Iger when he came into Disney and he shut down Lucas, what did they call it? Lucasfilm Games. He shut down all of that stuff. They were going to make a big Pirates of the Caribbean game back in like 2010-ish. And he shut down all of that because he basically was like, making games is hard. Let's just license it out. Don't do it internally. So he gutted their game development efforts and just basically said it's not worth the trouble. And that would be my fear, is that somebody comes in, buys out the company, and then just guts the gaming stuff because it's too hard. They're like, we'll just license it out to all these mobile game companies and stuff. So we'll see. Altogether, though, I don't like consolidation of big companies. I don't like all of the IP and developers ending up in one spot or in just a few buckets. I don't like that. In an ideal world, Warner Brothers would get their crap together and would be capable of putting out good games like they were 10 years ago, and they would be competing on the grand stage against everybody else. That's when the industry is at its most healthy. The consolidation is not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for the developers. Like, to be clear, this is not good news for the games industry or people interested in their IP and the games that would be made from those. This is bad news because it probably just means that all of it ends up more concentrated than it was before, which is kind of the last thing we need right now. I know some people are excited because, like, oh, they could buy the rights to the Nemesis system patent. You could, but like, again, you got to remember the people making these decisions are like 75-year-old dudes who have never touched a game console before. They are just looking at it as a business and as a thing that you operate, a machine that produces money. And for them, they're going to look at it and be like, it's not worth the trouble. And they're just going to probably scrap it. So I'm perhaps cynical, but yeah, I'm not too hopeful for the Warner Brothers stuff. Speaking of hopeful, should we touch on this? 53 nights. Thank you for 6 months. I had to turn the difficulty to story to beat the guy on top of Yote. Please call me a little bitch. 53 nights. You're a little bitch. Knock, knock. Who's there? Oh, it's a little bitch. That's who it is. There you go. There you go. Ross, thank you for the super chat. Hey, Luke, what do you want, or who do you want to buy Warner Brothers? Dream scenario? Dream scenario. Who buys... Dream scenario, who buys Warner Brothers and gets the rights to like Harry Potter and Batman? It's a good question. It's a good question. Batman, I mean, Batman, I think you could see amazing games put together by like Santa Monica, Naughty Dog, like those types of studios, but of course they would never actually use those. They'd make their own IP. CDPR, it's not really their type of game. I was thinking Harry Potter. I was like, who could make a really good Harry Potter type game? Like Hogwarts Legacy, but way bigger and deeper with like stuff built out much more vividly. I mean, CDPR making a Harry Potter universe game could be very interesting. Larian, I just don't think the IP are right for Larian. If we were talking Lord of the Rings, I swear to God, if Larian ever got the rights to Lord of the Rings, I would cry. Imagine a Larian Lord of the Rings RPG. Like, bro. Can you imagine? Oh, don't get my hopes up. But it's a good question. I genuinely am not totally sure. Like 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh, well, just if you could have this company buy out Rocksteady and just let Rocksteady make the games, it'd be amazing. But Insomniac, yeah, I guess Insomniac, that would be funny to see Insomniac making DC stuff out of nowhere. That would be very funny. I mean, Insomniac is very, very capable. So you'd see that. So maybe the simple answer is just to just say PlayStation if they bought the rights. I would at least be confident that they would make interesting and compelling games and not just scrap it. You know, my fear is that if Warner Brothers is bought out by one of these like big soulless, you know, Comcast like giga corporations, that it would just be scrapped and they're like, whatever. That's my fear. Oh, Capcom would be fun. Yeah, Capcom would treat it right, I bet. Oh yeah, Where Winds Meet. Yeah, no, dude, I've actually done a video on the main channel about it. Yeah, Where Winds Meet is very impressive. I've tried it. I've played a good amount of it actually, and yeah, Where Winds Meet is very, very impressive. I really liked it when I tried it. Let's see, Luke, were you able to grab a Crimson Desert Collector's Edition? Did they open to the US? Because I thought they opened them, but they weren't available in the US yet. It says currently unavailable. Did I order? I might have ordered this in like a sleep-induced haze in the middle of the night. Hold on. I will check my Amazon. This is me kind of being like super bougie. Being like, I don't remember if I bought the collector's edition. Let me check. I don't even remember. I buy so many collector's editions. I don't even know. I don't see it because I would have had to buy it through Amazon. Oh no, I did. Order received. Yes. So yes, I did. There you go. Now I remember looking at it and initially seeing it not available in the US, and then they opened it available to the US. And so I did the tap thing to pre-order it. And yeah, it's all coming back. It's all coming back to me. It's all coming back. But yes, I did pre-order it. So, because I like the statue. I mainly get collector's editions for the statues. I'm gonna be real. That's my main interest. Let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney bought Warner Brothers DC versus Marvel would print money. I do think that that would be like a slam dunk. I just genuinely don't know if Disney has the money to do that. Like, I don't know. Like, at least right now. But I mean, it could make
Artificially
sense.
Stupid Intelligence donated $10 through Super Chat. John Campea Podcast said WB will sell in parts. Netflix or others doesn't want park stuff like selling a backpack. Or selling all the stuff inside of it. Lol, either way we are heading to Ready Play.
Yeah, I think breaking it up probably makes the most sense. It's just like when you toss a steak into a vat of piranhas, that's probably what's going to happen. It's just going to get torn apart. It probably happens. But either way, it's not a great end scenario for us as the consumers, because it just means it's all going to get broken up into piecemeal. But this is what happens when you mismanage a multi-billion-dollar company for years. Then they're like, okay, we don't have any other ideas. And they just kind of toss it to the wind. They're like, okay, somebody else figured out, buy it from us, whatever. It really is the ultimate I give up. It's just like, okay, just somebody buy this from me. Like, that really is what they're doing. Exile, thank you for the resub over on Twitch, my friend. 39 months. That's insane. Thank you, my friend. That's absolutely crazy. Thank you. Absolutely insane. Let's talk about this. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Raven Lion with the $5 super chat says, "Hey Luke, what do you think about the Halo remake? A positive is it's coming to PlayStation, but studios are focusing more on remakes than new stories, which is bad." What a great segue into this topic. Yes, it is true. Halo campaign, I almost said combat evolved. Campaign Evolved arrives in 2026. Experience enhanced gameplay, additional missions, and new features on Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PC. Seriously, if you rewound the clocks 5 years and you screenshotted that, people would be like, "You idiot. No way. No way." But this is what they revealed. So they revealed all new gameplay footage and what it looks like. It basically seems like an Unreal Engine Halo remake, built from the ground up in the new tool set. And I do understand kind of, basically the reaction has been broken up into a few different components. For some people, they look at this and they find it to just be like the death of Xbox personified. They're like, okay, the thing that made Xbox is now going multi-platform. I personally, I'm just not that interested in console war stuff. I personally just don't really care. I understand why some people care. I understand this is a big deal for it to go to PlayStation. I just personally don't really care. They've mismanaged the platforms for so long that, like, there's a lot more money to be made if they just bring it to PlayStation. So I don't really care about that component of it. There's other things that people have been pointing to within the gameplay footage, for example, where they feel like it's lost some of its spark. You know, some of the original old school vibes are gone because it's too shiny now. It's too polished. And I'm kind of conflicted on that one, just to be honest, because I think this happens with any game when you're talking about something that's 20 years old, and then you go and you improve it, you bring it to modern standards, you add ray trace lighting, you add high quality reflections and stuff. It will look significantly better, but it will also look very, very different. If you're kind of wondering what that actually is, there's actually been people that have done comparisons. El Analista de Bits did this side by side, showing the original Combat Evolved 2001 footage. And then you'll see him kind of swapping back and forth, showing the new footage from like the 2011 remaster. And then he'll show the new footage from the brand new game, the remake. And I mean, the difference is pretty much night and day. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But I don't think that this is, like, just because this is so different on the right, I don't think that this is bad. You know, this game was from 2001. There should be major differences. It should look very, very different in terms of detail levels, texture quality, reflections. It just will. I remember playing this. I remember seeing this, and this is like very nostalgic. But it's a remake. It's a remake. If they were to just get rid of all foliage and just go with like flat maps and stuff, it would be, you know, you'd see people complaining about that. So in some ways it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. There's always going to be some people complaining about it, but I think that overall it looks like they've done a pretty decent job of retaining the vibe and the overall, I think, look of Halo. There's some instances where people are like, this thing is shiny when it's supposed to be dirty because it's you know, hundreds of thousands of years old or whatever. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's certainly a valid point to discuss. That's something you could bring up. But things like this being improved, I don't have a problem with that. Other people have brought up like performance concerns. I think that's totally fair. Whenever you see something being built out in Unreal Engine, unfortunately nowadays, you got to bring up performance. I think that that's totally fair to bring up and discuss. Performance is a big concern. I hope it doesn't run like ass, but that's just where we are now. But there was a video that was just put out by IGN where they actually got to play this new remake and ask questions of the team doing it. Now, some people are wondering why they're doing this after all this time. They're doing a remake. I think it really is just simply that Xbox doesn't have a lot of confidence in the studio. And this is kind of like the most bare bones basic way of like, show us you've got it. Get your feet under you by remaking the original, like show us you've got it. And then you can go do something new and fresh. And I think that's basically what this is. This is like the starter pack tutorial for the studio to build it out and show that they've got it. But let's see what they said, because I've heard very good things about this IGN video where they actually asked some difficult questions and stuff. So let's see what they said.
I honestly wasn't sure what to expect when I sat down in front of an Xbox Series X to play an early demo of Halo Campaign Evolved, the just announced Unreal Engine 5 remake of the original Xbox killer app. And yes, it is a proper remake, not a remaster like Halo Anniversary was. And I'm still not sure exactly how I feel after playing it. I definitely wanted to be blown away by the visuals, in the same way that the original Halo Combat Evolved knocked my socks off back in 2001. Heck, we know Unreal Engine 5 is fully capable. I also didn't want Halo Studios, aka 343 Industries, to mess with too much. Or did I? Would Halo 1 just feel old no matter what? And will PlayStation 5 gamers even care about this 25-year-old Xbox classic when it hits Sony's console for the first time ever, day and date with Xbox and PC? So I went in with a lot of questions, and I left with, well, some answers. Let me explain.
Yeah, he's right. When this comes out next year, it will have been a full quarter century since Halo launched. Quarter century. Woof. Woof. Feel old yet? Feel old? Yeah, think about that. Let that settle in. God damn. I think he also, one of the questions he asked is one I've actually had at the top of my mind for a while with a lot of other stuff too, which is like, will PlayStation gamers even really care? I genuinely don't know. Do PlayStation gamers care about Halo? Are they interested at all? Will they buy this? I mean, some of them will, certainly, but I don't know. It's the same thing with like the news that Starfield is going to go to PlayStation probably next year. Genuinely interested. I don't know if PlayStation gamers care about Starfield. Like, when they bring that, will a lot of people buy it? I don't know. And I think to some extent, what's happened over time is pretty straightforward. Like, I think what's happened is that over time, like if the market share was kind of like this for Xbox, and over time it's kind of dropped, right? For PlayStation, as time has gone by, it's of course gone up, so it kind of dropped there, and then it's gone up. And I think a lot of the people that used to be here have moved over to PlayStation, maybe in the PS5 era. I have some friends, for example, that bought PlayStation 5 and sold their Xbox Series X's to get it. Like at the start of the generation, my buddy Caleb bought a Xbox Series X in like 2020, whatever, yeah, late 2020. And then by 2021, he was like, I just don't really use it. So he sold his Xbox Series X to get like a PlayStation. And I think that also happens with a lot of different people, because they're like, hey, if I got a PC, I don't need my Xbox anymore. So I'm just going to sell that and then I'll move over to PlayStation. They still could be gamers that were originally over here. You know, they maybe were old school Xbox gamers. They do like Halo. They do like maybe Starfield or whatever. But they moved over to PlayStation because the console just made more sense with what with where they were at that point in their life. And so there would be a lot of people out there who are interested in Halo on PlayStation. They just like haven't gotten access to it because they're over on PlayStation. But I don't know. I mean, it could be that it sells something stupid like 10 million copies in a week. Could be that it launches on PlayStation and nobody really cares, because if they cared, they would already be on Xbox. I don't know. But I mean, time will tell. Fernando, thank you for the 5. During the Xbox showcase, Phil Spencer said 2026 would have a new Forza, a new Fable, new Gears, and new Halo. Is this the new Halo? Yes, I think this is. I don't think 2026's new Halo is like going to be some, like, I don't think it's going to be whatever Halo Infinite 2. Like, I don't think that's what they're doing. I think this is the new Halo. Yeah.
I suppose we might as well start with the obvious, how it looks. Is my face properly melted? No, but maybe yours is? I'll be curious to read the comments on this one. But anyway, Campaign Evolved does look very nice, no doubt. It certainly doesn't look like it's 2 decades old anymore. I played a chunk of the legendary Silent Cartographer mission from early in the campaign, and the skybox is beautiful, the water looks great, the trees look very nice, and the terrain texture looks sharp and clean. Once you get indoors, the alien architecture has a unique sheen to it that the original obviously never had. Meanwhile,
my fear with this, though, and you're seeing glimpses of it, some of the Lumen stuff that Unreal Engine uses for ray traced reflections really can look like particularly grainy. And there's also some like artifacting with it when you're moving quickly through environments, because it's using the temporal upscaling in tandem with it. And you're even seeing some of that like ghosting artifacting here on the Needler. As he like turns this corner, you'll see some like weird flickering and stuff. I fear that it's going to be covered in those classic Unreal Engine fingerprints.
the weapons all look exactly how you'd expect them to look in the modern era, and the grunts, jackals, elites, and hunters all look convincingly new rather than reskins of quarter-century-old creatures. Everything looks clean, but not in a soulless way, at least not to me. It works as a cohesive art-directed space in the new engine.
One thing I will say is that the light bouncing off of the walls does look really, really nice. Like just those shots going through the corridor, that looked really nice.
It works as a cohesive art-directed space in the new engine. I also appreciate that VO from the principal actors, Steve Downes and Jen Taylor at the very least, has been re-recorded.
I've been able to pinpoint the main facility by cross-referencing Covenant survey data and religious texts.
While mocap has all...
Yeah, they re-recorded it. This is one thing that, you know, unfortunately, some of these old games, like, I didn't realize this until I did some digging on, I forget what game we were looking at, but a lot of these older games, most of the file sizes, or most of the total like capacity on discs or cartridges, if you're going way back, but most of the capacity on the discs was tied up in like audio. recordings. And that's what most of, like, if you had, I don't know how big a 360 disc was, how much memory was on it, but like 40-50% of it was audio recordings for the sound effects and stuff, because you couldn't compress that very much at all. And if you did, it would get really distorted and stuff. And so remaking and remastering older stuff has proven very difficult, because unless those original master recordings were saved and preserved, which very rarely are they actually preserved like that, you are dealing with the compressed audio that just doesn't sound very good. Like, yes, for us, it's kind of iconic how it's compressed and the weird artifacting that can come with that. Like, I played the crap out of Old School Red Faction, the original game, and some of that audio, it's so compressed that it like peaks out the ass when characters are just talking with each other, but it's like ingrained in my soul, that sound. But if you were to remake that game, you'd have to probably re-record all of that. You'd have to re-record all of it because it's so compressed. It just wouldn't translate well to modern audiences and modern ears, where we expect the audio to not peak, you know, everywhere you go. So with this, it's interesting that they actually went back and re-recorded a lot of that stuff. It's a good touch.
Been redone for the rebuilt from scratch cutscenes. But let's talk about my biggest concern coming into this demo, the classic Halo feel. Movement, aiming, jumping, vehicle controls, it's all gotta have that semi-floaty Halo feel to it, and I'm pleased to report that even in this very early state, Campaign Evolved is a good bit of the way there.
Is it very early though? It comes out next year. I mean, a lot of developers say this though, where they're like, it's very, very early. It's very, very early. It's like, well, I mean, you launch in like 6 months. The most egregious example was Marathon earlier this year. I went out in April and they're like, yeah, we're very, very early. It's like, bro, you guys allegedly launch in September, like 5 months from now. What do you mean it's very early? Like, it's not really that early, you know?
No doubt they'll continue to tweak it over the coming months. This release has no official release date beyond 2026, by the way, but I would be stunned if it's not time to release at or very near the 25th anniversary of Halo Combat Evolved in November of next year. But there have been some gameplay modernizations implemented here that have been ported back from subsequent Halos into this remake, and while purists might bristle at it, most of these seem like they're for the best for a 2026 first-person shooter release.
Okay, wait, we have to talk about this. This was something that went viral, okay? What do you notice about this shot right here? As he's shooting, okay. This went viral because somebody screen capped a moment like this. It's that the Needler, one of the cool things about it is that it shoots the crystals on the top of the gun, and as it does that, they are launched through the gun, and so you can see when you run out of ammo because all the needles go away. In this remake, they've added a screen though to show how much ammunition you still have, which is like the most like unnecessary thing I think I've seen in a remake. Like, it's literally, this is kind of the amazing thing about it. This is kind of your heads up display showing you how much ammunition you have. You also have this down here in the bottom right showing you how much ammo you have, and then you also put it here. Yeah, it's like wearing 2 watches. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Or in this case, it's kind of like wearing 3 watches, because already you have this showing you the ammo, you have this showing you the state of the ammo, and then this one. And some people tried to be pedantic. They're like, well, technically, Luke, the needles can splinter when you're firing them. So yes, it does show you when it runs out of ammo, but it's not a 1-to-1 account of how many shots you will actually have necessarily, because this one crystal could break up into 2 shots. So it's not actually 1-to-1. Okay, I think for most people, they understand when the needles go away, they need to reload, and they have a pretty good feeling, okay, here I'm about half full. I got about half ammo. 16 out of 30. Sure enough. Is it a big deal? No. Does it mean the game will be bad? No. It's just kind of stupid.
it's just kind of stupid, you know, especially because we already have an ammo counter here, and on the gun itself, it's just repetitive. I know they were like, well, what else were we going to put there? We'll just put a screen with the ammo on it. I get why people made fun of it. It is stupid, but yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just stupid.
For a 2026 first-person shooter release.
Interesting. I underestimated the Covenant's understanding of Halo's subsystems.
For starters, vehicles are boardable and destructible
Edgar
now.
Vasquez donated $10 through Super Chat.
Thank you, Edgar.
You just called me stupid in like 5 different ways.
Love you. I can't. I can't laugh. I can't laugh or I will die. My lungs will explode. Deep breaths, Luke. I can't laugh. Okay. I think I'm okay. I can't laugh or like my lungs start to explode. I'm sorry, my friend. Yeah, no, it is literally nitpicking. It's just, it is funny. I mean, it is funny. It's like, yeah, you know, I can understand why some people are like, that's pretty stupid. I agree, it's kind of stupid. It doesn't mean that this will be bad. No, some people were trying to expand upon this and be like, see, this is a great indication of the DSP-ification of gaming with the yellow paint, and they have to have 3 different heads-up displays to show you how much ammo you have. And I was like, I don't think it's that serious. I don't think it's that great. I think they were designing the gun. They're like, what are we going to put on the back of it? Let's just do this. They'll like put the ammo counter on. I really think they were like, no one's going to throw a fit over this. They underestimated the power of Twitter, but anyway.
Now, as they were in subsequent Halo games. That means a ghost can no longer torment you endlessly, nor are you effectively invulnerable in a Scorpion tank. On a related note, a 4th player can now sit on the back of a Warthog. Oh, and though I didn't get to try it out on the Silent Cartographer, the Wraith is drivable now too, as it first became in Halo 2. Also, any weapons the bad guys wield, you can too. As such, the energy sword is now in your tool belt if you take one off of the corpse of a gold elite. Halo Studios says that there will be 8 weapons from Campaign Evolved that aren't new to Halo, but are usable for the first time in Master Chief's first adventure. On the movement front, Sprint has also been added. It's not on a cooldown either. You can run endlessly. I could see this one annoying the Halo 1 purists most of all, but not only do the developers say that you can turn it off, you can also just not use it. I actually found it handy when running back down the beach towards my mission objective after I'd wandered off to go stare at more of the new Unreal Engine 5 rendered spaces. What about co-op? After Halo Studios fumbled that in Halo Infinite, you're probably wondering about it for the remake. 2-player split screen is confirmed, though sadly it wasn't available in my short preview build, and the development team also promises 4-player online co-op with full cross-play and cross-progression support. As for proper competitive multiplayer though, unfortunately the answer to that is right in the name of this remake: Campaign Evolved. There's no multiplayer here, which is a shame because it'd sure be fun to see Blood Gulch or Sidewinder or Hang 'em High in Unreal Engine 5 with online crossplay support. I asked Halo Studios about this, and executive producer Damon Kahn gave me an extremely media-trained answer, saying the team is, quote, very focused on recreating the original campaign that started it all, end quote, and continuing, quote, Halo Infinite and Master Chief Collection provide really great experiences for multiplayer.
Dude, the media trained answers drive me absolutely crazy. The age-old example I use for this, and I'm sorry if you guys have heard me say it before, but I'll just say it again because, again, it's just the perfect example. It doesn't achieve anything, okay? We see right through it. Nobody believes
that that's your actual answer to the question. We know you're basically just ignoring the question and saying something unrelated. And the most like frustrating thing for me is when I'm like, you're talking to a developer, you want to get an answer. If you just say, I can't tell you that answer because I'm not allowed to, I'll respect that. But spinning it and like trying to pivot away drives me crazy. And the example I give is from when I did that preview event for Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And we went to that event and I got the chance to ask a bunch of questions of the game director, like the gameplay director. Really cool guy. And he sat on the chair. I sat across from him, and Jacob was actually there, and he's filming us. And I asked him a bunch of questions going back and forth on the design philosophy, on what they were trying to do. And at one point, I asked him, like, what is the one gameplay system that you think will define this game, that you think is really compelling? What do you think is like something you want people to pay more attention to? What like do you think is going to be something that it really will excite people? And I could see him pause, and he was like really trying to think, what do I think is actually going to be the most compelling gameplay system in this game? Like, what is going to really hook people? But behind me was standing the PR guy. So they had a PR person there to make sure he didn't say anything he wasn't supposed to. And I didn't see him because he was standing behind me. But Jacob told me after the fact that the PR guy literally stood and just started going like this, like flapping his arms. And the gameplay director goes, oh, the Ekrons, flying the Ekrons really is very compelling and interesting. And it really, I think, is going to get a lot of people hooked on exploration, blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, well, that's what the PR guy wanted you to say. Like, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. That's what the PR guy wanted you to say. Like, why am I interviewing you if you're just going to echo what the PR guy said? Why are you here? Why not just sit down with the PR guy, you know? Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. I think it's just a remnant of like old school media training stuff from like the early 2000s, but we live in the like media age, the online age. I think we're past that. Wasn't it cooking? So the two questions I asked him were like, what gameplay system, I forgot the exact phrasing of the question. I could go back and look at the video I made right after. Sorry, I meant to mute. I could go back and watch the video that I made right after, but I asked him like two questions. One was like, what is the gameplay system that will really define this game or really hook people or something like that? And he said the cooking system, which was funny because the cooking I thought was one of the weakest parts of the game. And then the other question that the Ekron thing was answered to, I think was like, what is something you want people to pay more attention to, or what do you think is going to captivate people? I forget the exact phrasing of the questions, but yeah, I asked him like those two big questions, and he said the cooking he thought was going to be like one of the big gameplay systems that would define the game. I thought it was pretty terrible. And then the Ekron thing he thought more people should pay attention to. But yeah, I forgot the exact phrasing of the questions, but yeah, dude, that whole thing was funny. Anyway, continue on.
End quote. Well, sure they do. For Xbox and PC players, that doesn't really help new PS5 players fall in love with Halo's glorious multiplayer, though. Presumably, they didn't want to pull any players away from Master Chief Collection for this, and/or adding full multiplayer support would have likely meant that the project couldn't get done in time for the 25th anniversary. But it's still disappointing.
I think it's probably both. I think they didn't want to pull people away from the other Halo games that have multiplayer, because there's not that many players out there playing Halo multiplayer regularly, and so you don't want to splinter them further than you have to. And I think they also, just practical matter, probably it was going to lead to delays, and they didn't want to rush it, because that's the last thing they need. Imagine after all of this, the full reboot into Halo Studios, and then it launches and it's like super buggy and broken. That would be pretty stupid.
That led me to wonder about pricing. Would this be a full $70 release, or perhaps even $80 by the time it comes out, since Microsoft already tried to push to that price point this year? Or will it be priced lower, particularly since it's campaign only? The Halo Studios team would not say when I asked them directly, so this remains to be seen. Personally,
And good for them for asking these questions. I will say, I've been hard on IGN in even very, very recent memory, but because I think they should be capable of the best journalistic standards in the industry as one of the biggest, if not the biggest, platform for games journalism. And I got to give them credit. Asking these tough questions, how much is it going to cost? Where's the multiplayer? Why did you get rid of it? Why is it not here? That type of thing. Like, those are good questions. It's the bare minimum, sure, but it's still an improvement over what we normally get, which is just usually puff pieces. So I got to give them credit for asking these questions and actually trying to get answers to it. I would expect that they're going to try to sell this at full price. I mean, let's be honest. I think they're going to try to put this out at like 70. What we know is that Microsoft has been pushing for 30% margins on everything. So Amy Hood, the CFO, has been saying Xbox needs to achieve 30% margins. So for every dollar they spend, they need to make 30 cents back. And that's a tall order because the games industry historically does not get close to that. They just don't. So it's kind of insane to demand that of them, but that's what they are asking for. So how do they do that? They either cut costs and or they raise prices. And in this case, I think raising prices is what they're going to try to do. I think charging $70 for this would be kind of insulting, especially when it's supposed to be a celebration of the franchise. But I would expect nothing less of Microsoft in the modern day. So I'm just going to be braced for full price. What I think they should do, I think like $30. Like, the campaign isn't that long. It's a remake. You're celebrating the IP and celebrating the franchise. I don't think this is the time to get super greedy, but I think $30, I'd be happy with it. I'd be like, oh, okay, it's missing multiplayer. I'd go check it out. Anything more than that, I'd start to be pretty, 25th anniversary is $25. Yeah, that $25 would be a good price, but I think realistically 30 is probably a good middle ground. 70, I'm not doing that.
personally, $50 feels right for this, but that's just my opinion. I also think that $20 per month feels like the right price for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Okay, so no multiplayer, but there is one significant addition that I'm legitimately excited about. A new 3-mission prequel campaign that revolves around Master Chief and Sergeant Johnson. This could be extremely cool, but unfortunately, that's literally all we know so far. In fact, Halo Studios wouldn't even tell me if it's accessible out of the box, or if you have to complete the campaign in order to unlock it. I also asked if they'd be repurposing existing music from the Halo 1 soundtrack to score these missions, or if they might commission something new. Dare I dream they reach out to Marty O'Donnell himself. And they, guess what, didn't have an answer for me there either.
And what I've noticed in recent years, and this wasn't always the case, guys, because like I've been doing this for a little while, but it used to be that by the time you were doing a preview event for a game, everything was locked down. Nowadays, it feels like you go to a preview event for the game and they're still actively figuring out what's going on. They're still actively changing stuff. They're still actively designing stuff and locking it in. And it didn't always feel that way. It always, like back in the day, it felt like you'd go to a preview event and they had all the answers because they knew it had been locked in months and months before. Nowadays, it just feels like everything is being rushed so close to the deadline. It's kind of insane. It's just bizarre to see.
We're approaching the LZ. It's gonna be hot. Get set to cut out swing.
Getting back to gameplay, I must say that I still had fun hooning across the beaches of the Silent Cartographer and a Warthog, my UNSC Marine buddies in the passenger and gunner seats, helping to mow down Covenant bad guys while I attempted to turn them into hood ornaments with my front bumper. Just like old times. I also manned the gun turret at one point to test out the friendly AI, and it still needs work. In fact, someone on the development team acknowledged this later without me bringing it up, so it's clearly something they're aware of. Honestly, though, it's not something I'm even worried about when there's still probably upwards of a year of development time left. It's the same thing with the frame rate. No doubt some folks went straight to the comments to note any inconsistencies they saw, because I definitely noticed some. And while it's certainly important, it's not something that I'm sweating this far away from the end of the project.
The Covenant are putting up.
I'd say that's fair. I mean, a year is a long time, because if they are, let's be honest, if they are looking at doing November of next year, a full year is a long time in AAA development. It's a very long time, especially if you have like hundreds of developers working on it. It's the same thing when we talked about like AC Shadows, and it was like, oh, they delayed it by 3 months. What could they possibly do? Dude, the difference in 3 months on the AAA scale is insane. Like they can do a lot of work in 3 months. So having a year of still refining and polishing and stuff, they can probably make a lot of improvements.
A real fight. The cartographer must be here.
But I guess that's the other excuse me, that's the other piece of this, is that we just don't know how far it is. It's like we're assuming November, because that would be the 25th anniversary. But they didn't say November, they just said 2026. They could try to shove it out earlier. Who knows? Maybe they're worried about GTA 6, and they're like, hey, if GTA 6 gets delayed to November or October of 2026, gets pushed out of May, we don't want to be next to it, so we'll move it forward or move it back or whatever they need to do. That could be a piece of it too, why they don't want to give it a date.
Oh, and I should also mention that Halo Studios is adding skulls to Halo Campaign Evolved. Lots of them, in fact. Dozens was the word they used, with an emphasis on this remake having the most skulls of any Halo campaign ever. Replayability is clearly a focus for the studio here, which is understandable, given Halo's strong history in that department, as well as the lack of adversarial multiplayer, and hopefully the skulls will spice things up for Xbox players running through this thing for the umpteenth time. On that note, I couldn't help but wonder if PlayStation 5 players getting their first crack at Halo are really gonna care about this in a way that turns a lot of them into new fans of the franchise. It's a genuine question. I've got a lot of personal history with Halo, so I simply can't answer this one. For somebody with no nostalgia for Master Chief, will those players find Campaign Evolved as compelling as I found Combat Evolved? And if they do, then what? Will Halo Studios remake Halo 2 in Unreal Engine 5? And then 3? 4? 5? Reach? ODST? Infinite? Or will they just port the Master Chief Collection and Halo Infinite to PS5 to catch those players up? I asked the team about this and again got a very media-trained half answer. Quote, "There is an opportunity for us to grow the fan base," executive producer Damon Kahn told me. "We're bringing the most players we believe to Halo ever. And so that growth is what we're truly interested in. And again, I hinted before, this paves the way for future stories and Halos," end quote. And so as you can see, I'm still left with many unanswered questions about this remake project. But to Halo Studios' credit, this early demo did answer a couple of key ones about how good it would look and how Halo-y it would feel. So far, so good there.
I mean, I think, I guess my feeling is that a lot of the people that are on PlayStation right now, like I pointed out earlier, I think they're people that used to be on Xbox that have moved over since the last 10 years or so, because they just didn't find the Xbox offering that compelling. And so they might have played Halo back in the day. They're familiar with it. They just moved home consoles, basically. There are some people that are bougie and have all of the consoles, sure. But most people, the average person, they basically pick one or the other.
if they are in 2020 and they're choosing which console they want to go for, they're picking one, and that's the one they're locking down on. And so I think a lot of like the PlayStation fan base is probably familiar with Halo. I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, if it's like all of these people are old school PlayStation fans and have never played any of these games, but then you have some like Xbox converts, people that played those games back in the day. These guys will probably play Halo Campaign Evolved, and maybe you also get a little bit of some new people, some new fresh blood that comes in, and other people just won't care because they were on PlayStation in part because they didn't care about games like Halo. It didn't interest them, so they're good. But either way, I think they will get more players than they certainly would have otherwise. It's just, I don't know if it's that overwhelming. But I've been wrong before about stuff. Like I did not think Elden Ring Night Rain would blow up the way it did, but it did very, very well. And so maybe this does blow up on PlayStation and ends up being huge on PlayStation. PlayStation gamers are like, oh my God, we've been missing out so much for so long. I don't know. I don't personally suspect that'll happen. I think people will play and be like, oh yeah, so this is, I can see why people like it. Feels old, feels like a 25-year-old game, but you know, it's fun, and they'll probably just move on with their day. But yeah. I may have missed it, but well, I'll let it read. Thank you, Hayden.
Hayden Wayne 75 donated $10 through Super Chat. I may have missed it, but this is an important question. Did they make Cortana hot again?
I don't think have they said anything about Cortana? Does anyone in chat know? Have they said anything about Cortana or the Cortana design or anything? I don't actually know if they've said much about it. I would not expect Cortana to be overflowing with design. You know what I mean? But I don't think they've shown anything.
I'm very excited about the new 3-mission prequel campaign featuring Sergeant Johnson, as it will be the first new single-player content in a Halo game in, by that point, 5 years. Can Campaign Evolved relight Halo's spark? That's the biggest question of all, and it'll have to remain unanswered for a bit longer.
Yeah.
For more on the latest upcoming
There you
games...
go. So, I mean, props to IGN for actually asking some kind of tough questions of them. Obviously, they didn't have many answers to provide, but I do think they deserve some credit for asking those questions. And I think that they should ask more of those questions. I'm interested in this. I don't know if it... Like, I don't think this is going to be an Oblivion remastered moment for Halo. I think people will play it. People will be like, oh, cool. Halo's like a remake is available, and they'll move on with it. But ultimately what I think Halo needs is something really fresh and exciting. And I just don't think remakes are that. I think what Halo really needs is a visionary to come in and craft a new campaign that is super exciting, craft a multiplayer experience that is cutting edge and fresh and exciting. Bring it back to the old school days, because back in the day, dude, people like this younger generation, these young kids, they don't understand how big Halo was, or even just the vibe of having your friends come over and just playing Halo multiplayer, play Ninja Knot matches all night long while eating pizza. Like, that was the vibe. That was the vibe. And that's just been totally lost. And they could get back to that, but it's going to take some hard work. And I hope they can pull it off eventually, but they got a lot of work to do. And I think the campaign remake will be cool. I just don't think that that's what the campaign or what the franchise needs right now. I think it's a good step. And like I mentioned at the top, my suspicion is that this was basically their their sort of like tutorial proof of concept. They're doing this to just demonstrate that they still have it, that they know what they're doing. But we'll see if they can actually pull it off. We'll see. Jaya Camps, thank you for the membership, by the way. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. On screen celebration with Rona Inc. Thank you for the bits. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay. Okay. My lungs. My lungs. One thing I did do, this is not even really a segment, I guess. One thing I did do while I was in Orlando, I did get to go see the Freddy Fazbear Haunted House. I don't know how this person recorded it because these people have their phones out. So maybe this was like a media day or something where they were allowed to film it. We were not allowed to film anything. They had crew members stationed all the way through the haunted house, constantly checking to see if people had their phones out and stopping them if they did. So like we were not allowed to film anything. Like right here, yeah, there's a crew member right there, standing there. And if we had phones out, they would tell you to put them away. But they had full-bodied animatronics and stuff of Freddy and Chica and Bonnie. And you can't really tell here, but they're covered in the fabric, and it was actually quite impressive. It was really, really cool. It was really, really cool. Yeah, lots of little bitty jump scares, the cupcakes. I was just amazed though, dude, like back in the day, FNAF was viewed as like pretty cringe, pretty niche, I guess. Now it's like full on mainstream, dude. It's full on mainstream. This haunted house had the longest line of any of the haunted houses in the entire park. The first night we went, they literally had it overflowing. So they had to shut it off. And I forget what they called it. They stopped letting people even get into the wait line. It was so long. Some people were waiting there for like 5 to 6 hours to go. It's wild. I don't know if it was the movie that blew it up. I don't know if I've just been sleeping on it for the last 5 years and it's actually blown up even more with the younger generation. I don't know. But all I know is that FNAF, it's massive now. Of course, they have the second movie coming out, I think, next year, I want to say. So they have that coming out, and I'm sure that'll help it blow up even more. But I was just genuinely shocked at how huge it was. It was really, really bizarre. Like the house was cool. It was cool to see full-bodied animatronics. They had Foxy running down the hallway, coming at you. Like it was fun. They had Springtrap, and if you've played the games, there's a lot to appreciate in there. But it was just so bizarre to see so many people who are not gamers who somehow know about FNAF and are really interested in it. It was really, really weird, but it was cool. Moyota, thank you for the sub, or the membership, I guess, technically. Oh, it's in December. Oh, it's in December. Okay. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. Yeah. I don't know. It was really cool. If you have the chance to go to the FNAF haunted house, I recommend you do. But I wouldn't wait 5 hours, personally. 5 hours for a haunted house just hurts. That one hurts. You know? I don't know how I feel about that one. The books sell a lot. Oh, who knew? Who knew? I didn't know that. But I guess somebody's got to be buying those things. Okay. Okay. Should we watch? What do I want to do next? What do I want to do next? Let's do this. Let's do this next. Oh, do they have a new Crimson Desert video, or is it the one with the 3 boss fights? Oh, exclusive hands-on preview. IGN first. You're right. Brand new. Okay, yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Thank you, Diego. Thank you. Shout out Diego for letting me know. New segment. you go. That one's free. That one's free. I don't know why doing that just now made me really hungry for Taco Bell. Is that a normal thing? Was it just holding this with my mouth open that made me think of it? I don't know. Anyway, let's do this. Okay. Crimson Desert exclusive preview from IGN First. This just dropped. Shout out to Diego and chat for letting me know. Just dropped all of like, what is happening? Dude, this YouTube redesign is freaking me out. 33 minutes ago. Let's see what they have to say. Brand new gameplay. Let's check it out.
It has been almost 6 years since Crimson Desert was first revealed to the world. Across that period, developer Pearl Abyss has shown off a huge array of ideas, mechanics, and boss battles. It's frequently been cited as something of an everything game. An open world adventure with sky islands, mechanical dragons, wrestling moves, interdimensional gateways, interacting elemental effects, and even a Spider-Man web swing. But the more that's been revealed, the more there's been the sense that Crimson Desert may be a lot of pieces in need of a whole. Finding that complete picture was my main objective when I visited Pearl Abyss's studio in Seoul for this month's IGN First. And while I can't say I found it yet, multiple hours of hands-on playtime has revealed a game that's maybe not as strange as you'd expect. In fact, Crimson Desert feels pretty straightforward. Pearl Abyss has crafted a reasonably traditional open-world adventure, made up of multiple regions peppered with towns, outposts, and castles. There's the usual collection of main and optional quests, plus classic distractions like fishing. You'd be forgiven for not realizing this though. Pearl Abyss has put almost all of its promotional efforts into showcasing boss fights. Not only that, but Crimson Desert's blend of traditional medieval fantasy with sci-fi and steampunk elements does make it seem like it's being pulled in several directions at once.
In order to destroy such a weapon, you'll need to acquire Golden Star's power core. Golden Star.
When you're on the ground and seeing how all these elements interact though, it doesn't feel quite so alien. The continent of Pywell is perhaps less like a typical Tolkien-esque fantasy world and more akin to Dungeons & Dragons, a setting that, in recent years, was host to a Mad Max-like vehicular chase through hell. Pearl Abyss's design team explained that they wanted Pywell to reflect the variety of our reality, in which some countries feel much more futuristic than others, and note that some of Pywell's leaders may be more resistant to the advancement of technology than others, a conflict that'll be explored through various faction quests. All this means that the variety doesn't feel artificial or there simply for the sake of being wild, even when you're at the controls of a flying battle robot, which was, of course, designed by Dwarven engineers.
I do think, you know, the closing act of this game's marketing cycle is going to be really interesting because a lot of people are really impressed by it. A lot of people think it looks too good to be true at the same time. A lot of people think that it looks like, as he said, the everything game. Excuse me. But how do you close the deal? How do you close it to the point where you get them to spend $70 or whatever, you know, version of the game they end up buying? You know, getting them that excited. Maybe it's just with really good review scores where people can see it. But I think as of right now, people are still not clear on what like an hour or two of gameplay will be like. You know, like when you boot this game up and you just sit down to play for a couple of hours on a Tuesday night, what are you going to be doing? With some games, it's much easier to understand what that will be. You know, whether it's something like Outer Worlds 2, you understand you're going to be doing these side quests or the main story quest lines, trying to infiltrate this area, building up your relationship with your companions, this, that, and the other. With this game, like we've seen big set pieces, we've seen boss battles, but I think the quieter moments have not really been explored much, which I don't blame them. Quiet moments can be more boring than the exciting moments and the big moments with boss fights and stuff. The danger with only showcasing and advertising with the big moments, though, is that people start to think that that's all the game is, which no game can be nonstop boss battles. I mean, even big games like Elden Ring have a lot of variability. It has moments of quietly riding through a vast valley with not much going on, admiring the vistas and finding little bitty scraps on the ground. And then they have the big boss fights as well. But there's that variability in it. So I want to see some of the quiet moments. I want to see some of the moments where not a lot is happening, you know? That's what I want to see.
The inclusion of these mechanized and steampunk elements grant Pearl Abyss the creative license to build quests that are a significant departure from anything we'd see in something like Skyrim. A major part of my hands-on time involved completing a quest for Marnie, a scientific genius who cloned his own consciousness to create an AI-like entity called Hall. Naturally, the results of such an experiment have gone very wrong, and Marnie's evil digital magic twin has taken command of a flying fortress that's terrorizing Pywell's skies. Defeating Hall requires the use of a power core, which Marnie reveals is hidden inside a weapon called Golden Star. And by weapon, he means a giant mechanical dragon. While they presumably have ballistic missiles in Pywell, what with the advanced engineering and all, of course the fantasy version of a nuke is flying Mechagodzilla. All that stands between me and this winged menace is a fortress filled with angry battle robots. It appears that fortress assaults will be a significant recurring objective in Crimson Desert, considering that my hands-on time involved no fewer than 3 of them. I can see why Pearl Abyss was keen to show them off, as they are a showcase for some of the project's strongest achievements. There's a great sense of atmosphere, with a legion of men from either side battling the living hell out of each other, and you're caught in the middle of it all. Fun mechanical wrinkles add texture. During one attack, I was able to fire signaling arrows that were quickly followed by a bombardment of artillery, decimating enemy soldiers and reducing buildings to splinters.
That is the same thing that I experienced in my demo with the game back in June at Summer Games Fest. So I'm not sure if he's playing a similar chunk as what I played, but that signaling arrows thing is the same that I previously told you guys about.
In another, I was able to circumnavigate the brutal melee entirely, sneaking into the castle through a crumbling wall and using the prison as a shortcut to the boss. And in my fight through the robot fortress, a backpack-mounted EMP device allowed me to fry the circuits of both the lumbering ground threats and airborne bug bots in one giant blast. There's always something new to try, something to experiment with. But as much as these fortress assaults are a demonstration of Crimson Desert's highs, they also simultaneously reveal what could turn out to be some of its biggest blemishes. Battling masses of enemies is surprisingly tedious, feeling messy and repetitive rather than an engaging chain of frontline fights. An awkward lock-on feature pushed me away from one-on-one duels into a more freeform playstyle, but that came with the baggage of imprecise strikes and occasionally kicking the air instead of faces. Absolutely none of these issues hamper the boss battles, which was my only experience of Crimson Desert prior to this demonstration, and I was quite surprised at how different combat can feel in alternative scenarios, even when using the same moveset. It's in these...
I will say the lock-on that he just brought up, that's something that I also brought up, if you remember, in my I tried Crimson Desert video right after Summer Games Fest. And my understanding of how this works, there is a lock-on for your aiming, basically, for where the melee attacks actually go. And then there is a lock-on for your camera. And my understanding is that they are 2 separate things, or at least they were back in June. I don't know if that's changed or if they've updated it since then, but when I was describing how I was frustrated that the lock-on wasn't working properly in my demo, some of the people from Pearl Abyss actually came to me after that video went up and said, actually, there is a way to deal with it. It's just a particular input. So if you come back to our booth, we can show you how it works and all that. So there is apparently a fix to it. It's just, it wasn't clear to me. I didn't understand it when I was playing the demo. So I don't know if this is a similar problem where he was having problems with the lock-on and it's because the controls just weren't very clear to him, or if it's still a problem that they need to address. But lock-on has certainly been a consistent complaint or frustration from people who have tried the game, because at the very least, it doesn't work the way it works in most games that we are familiar with, where you press the right stick, it locks on both camera and attacks are locked onto that character or enemy. In this game, I believe they were describing that it's 2 separate lock-ons, so you can freely move the camera while being locked on for attacks on one character. It seems unnecessary to me, like just lock the camera as well, but I don't know, it could have changed by the time that they played it here, or it could change by launch. But yeah, that has been a consistent frustration from people.
Smaller, less refined details where Crimson Desert threatens to lose itself. There are occasions where you need to pick up and manipulate objects, such as planting a banner to inspire your allies. Doing so requires standing still, turning to face the object, activating a focus mode, rapidly tapping a button to lift your target, and then finally using your telekinetic powers to manually move it. All of this is a slightly baffling annoyance when erecting flags, but it turns into a genuine frustration in the middle of a boss battle, when you're desperately trying to swing a fallen masonry column during the precious few seconds when the boss is stunned.
It's funny he's bringing this up because this is also a sequence that I played when I tried the game. But the problem was that the very nice lady who was helping me play it, that was from the team sitting next to me, she, like, I forget what the exact example was, but she basically was telling me press like L1 to do this like slam attack, but it was actually supposed to be L2. And so I was pressing the buttons and nothing was happening. And so we went through like 4 cycles of the boss getting downed before I finally was like, okay, let me try some other button inputs. And then I tried that and then I realized, oh, she just got the button name wrong, and then it worked. So I wonder if it was a similar problem that he ran into, but once I had the right buttons, it worked. It worked just fine. But yeah, it's amazing how you just have to have the right buttons and then it works great. But it's also one thing I think it's important to note with this game is that it's crucial to understand the control scheme is very complicated. This is not like your standard R1 light attack, R2 heavy attack, L1 parry / block. That is not what this game is. It is unapologetically way more complicated than that. And as a result, it's not easy to pick up and try. It's actually very difficult to pick up and just play if you've never played it before. But I think it's important to understand that because that's true of a lot of games as well, where if you aren't familiar with the control scheme or combos or things like that, popping into the middle of the game's runtime and then being like frustrated that you don't understand how the controls work and then therefore critiquing the game because of it, that also is not really fair, because if you play the game from the start, you will have that muscle memory built up. You know, if you've played Ghost of Tsushima, like the Iki Island expansion, you know how there's enemies that swap weapons, so you have to swap stances constantly. And if you have that muscle memory down, when the guy pulls out a shield, it's not that big of a deal for you to just quickly R2, swap the stance, and continue fighting. But if you had never played Ghost of Tsushima before, and then you got thrown into a boss fight in the Iki Island expansion, and you don't have that muscle memory, it's going to be very, very frustrating. And you're going to be like, it feels super clunky. It feels bad. How am I supposed to figure this out? Because you don't have the muscle memory. But if you played the game from the start all the way through, you would have that muscle memory and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. If anything, it would be engaging and exciting, you know? So I just bring that up because a lot of these frustrations over button inputs or control scheme stuff, it could be that even after 20, 30, 40 hours of gameplay, it's still annoying. That could very well be the case, but it could also be the case that if you play Crimson Desert from the start all the way through, you get this muscle memory down and then it's not a problem at all. And you're just, it's like second nature to you, and it's not a problem whatsoever. So I just want to bring that up because it's a common difficulty in games that have complicated controller schemes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the game is bad. Yeah, there it was. It's right back here. He lifts it up. Yeah, so put down, lock, carry, square, triangle, circle, and then I think slam was like R1. But she was telling me to use L1 or something like that. Oh, here it is. Aim with L1, slam R1. Yeah, so you have to pick it up, hold it, and then aim with L1 and then slam with R1. And I think she was saying L1, R2 or something like that.
Thankfully, no such awkward ultra hand juggling is required to extract the power core from Golden Star. As we explored earlier this month in our making of feature, this is a boss fight with a unique mechanic that must be discovered in the quite literal heat of battle. The Dragon's Flaming Breath activates an array of pylons dotted around the arena, which then dispense EMP bombs that you can fire from an arm-mounted cannon. The system creates a repeating phase loop. Golden Star circles above, belching the flames that produce the EMP bombs that will eventually bring him crashing to the ground, where you can unleash a barrage of strikes until he reboots and begins the cycle anew. Pearl Abyss are keen to point out that you don't have to do this. You could, for instance, use lightning-reefed arrows to apply a stun, or simply chip away at his health bar with ranged attacks. But I feel that the real enjoyment in all of Crimson Desert's boss fights have been finding the unique mechanic built into the arena or even the enemy itself. Bosses are not the only thing in need of conquering. Suspended high above Pywall are a scattering of Abyss Islands, accessed through portals that are unlocked with mysterious Abyss artifacts. These islands appear to come in multiple guises. Last year we saw that one of them is home to an alchemist called Alastin and his Library of Providence, and my hands-on session included one that was more akin to Zelda's puzzle shrines. Its checkerboard floor was essentially a room-sized circuit board in need of a total rewiring, and finding the correct path through the grid of rotating flagstones unlocks the island's treasure trove. This is, of course, the sort of puzzle you've solved in everything from Watch Dogs to Bioshock, but I enjoyed how your equipment is integral to completing it. Your lantern illuminates the correct pathway, and your grapple hook is used to spin each tile. So while this challenge is not particularly taxing, I hope its solid foundations are the basis for more interesting puzzles that await among the clouds. When you've uncovered an Abyss Island's secrets, you can leap off the side and float down to Earth, where plenty more traditional open world fare awaits. There are towns to visit, in which you'll find shopkeepers to trade with and bounties to take on. Out in the wilderness, there are camps to clear out and roaming barbarians to slaughter. And then there's the factions. From what I glimpse in the menus, there are dozens and dozens of them, although some will be more important than others, I'm told. A few have their own quest lines, such as House Wells, a family of nobles led by a duke who's lost his castle to rebel forces, a situation that's the catalyst for one of those aforementioned fortress assaults. Pearl Abyss was quick to clarify that these groups are not like Fallout's factions, and allegiances with them won't change the course of the story or impact Crimson Desert's ending, which is set in stone. And so I'm left wondering, what are the faction quests in aid of? When asked, Pearl Abyss's design team explained that they were there to ensure that the factions felt like significant actors in the plot, and that they offered more content for players to complete. That considered, I am a little apprehensive that at least some of Crimson Desert's offerings will be stuff to do rather than meaningful interlinked opportunities. That brings us back to my very first question.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, as long as you understand what you're getting into. It's the same reason why it's important to understand if you're playing a game that is an RPG. Like, your expectations have to be in line. If you're playing an RPG and then you do faction quest lines and they have no impact on the story or relationships or anything like that, that's a problem. If you're playing like an adventure game and you do like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, if you do side quests in that, like, yeah, that's not going to have an impact on relationships or on endings or anything, but it's something that you're doing to gain new equipment or materials or whatever, then that's totally fine. It's just a matter of understanding what you're getting into so that you don't have false expectations. Kappa Claus, thank you for 28 months. Booyah. Yo, hope you're doing well. Excited to try RedSec tomorrow, then Arc Raiders later this week. Yeah, dude, I'm ready for Arc Raiders. Me and my college buddies have been keeping an eye on it. Yeah, we're gonna actually do it. I was gonna play the freaking server test that they had last week or two, and I was gonna do it, but I was traveling, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until the actual launch and then get in. That's what I'm gonna do. So I'm excited. Anyway, continuing.
What is Crimson Desert as a whole? I know it's a vast open world with deep, fighting game inspired combat that works better against bosses than it does against fodder. It's got spectacle-laden quests that take you from in-the-mud castle assaults all the way up to aerial dogfights. And it's littered with good time distractions, from fishing and bounties to taming bears and buckling up in a battle mech. But I'm still waiting to discover the glue between all this that elevates an open world to new heights. Shadow of Mordor has the Nemesis system, which chains its enemies together into a foe-conquering big picture.
So good.
Red Dead Redemption 2's systems are united by a pursuit of realism and authenticity that makes its campaign feel like a life lived rather than a game played. And this year's Ghost of Yotai links every activity on its map to a new unlock on your skill tree, ensuring even little diversions are a growth opportunity. That's the stuff that's so far been missing from Crimson Desert's demonstrations, and the thing I hope will eventually be revealed when I get to play multiple consecutive hours rather than a collection of isolated quests and bosses. Without it, I still think Crimson Desert stands a solid chance at being an overall good time, but with it, it could become something much more special. For more from Crimson Desert,
Yeah, like what I'm looking for is I want to see what like the loot system looks like. What like if I'm going out of my way to complete a side quest, what's the reward for that? You know, like what is the connective tissue that ties it together? And that's what we just don't know as of yet, because we've seen a lot of glimpses of boss fights, of castle raids and stuff, but we don't know, like I said earlier, the quiet moments, the moments of respite, of pausing, thinking, reflecting. What does my character build out look like? Swapping weapons. We see things like using food and consumables. How does that work in collecting them or crafting them? Like that type of stuff that is core to a video game, but that is much quieter than these big crazy boss fights. I think that's what people have yet to see. And I don't blame them for focusing on the big, crazy, exciting stuff. Obviously, like it's big and exciting, but I do think that that's where the questions still lie. So we will, we'll see when we get a look at it, but I'm hopeful that they either do like a preview event where they let people play some more of it. What I've told everybody has been the best way to do this, in my opinion, is what Warhorse did with KCD2. What they did was they invited a few select people out to like big cities. In my case, they invited me out to New York City. I flew in, slept a night in a hotel, walked to a game cafe that they had, rented a room in, and then we sat down and I played 7 hours of the game nonstop from the start of the game. 7 hours. And then when I was done, I flew home. And that was it. They're like, yeah, just play 7 hours, have fun. Like, it was the most big dick energy, just like, yeah, we know we have something awesome here. Like, it was exactly what you would hope to see from a studio that's confident in what they have. That they were just like, play, have fun. That's it. We don't need to have carefully catered quest lines. We don't need to load you into separate states. We don't need to hide you away from this quest line because it's bugged or broken. We're just going to let you play. And I think that could go a long way with something like this. You just let players have 7 hours with Crimson Desert, see what they think of it, and share that, you know? That's what I would recommend to them. I'm not saying, I mean, obviously I would like the chance to play it, but it doesn't even have to be me. It just has to be somebody that you can trust is going to accurately reflect on what that first 6-7 hours of the game is like, you know? But time will tell. They have plenty of time. They've got months and months and months to share with this or to explore this. But yeah, we'll get there. 6-7, yeah, 6-7 hours. 6-7. Yeah, I do feel good about doing side content in Elden Ring because it was worth the exploration. Well, yeah, in Elden Ring, you go around exploring and you can find either items that are very, very valuable. You're getting runes that are useful for leveling up, or you're finding new weapons and armor sets and stuff that are very, very valuable, you know, that make it worth doing. I still don't really know what like the loot or inventory system and leveling systems look like in this game yet, but time will tell. Dispatch yet? No, I've not played Dispatch yet. I have it downloaded on the PlayStation upstairs, and Nikki and I are gonna try it tonight. Is actually the goal. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Okay. I realized, so with this next one, I realized we didn't actually explore this on the live channel. So I figured I would do an overview on all of this, okay? Okay. So since you've been gone, I have missed a lot of stuff while my voice has been dying and I've been traveling. But I wanted to talk about all of this with you guys. to just all get on the same page. A lot of you guys have sent me DMs and stuff asking about my opinion on the current state of Assassin's Creed. I put up a video on the main channel going through it, but I figured I would quickly run through my overall thoughts on all this here, because there's been some counters and some people that have brought up things that I wanted to respond to. Basically, very, very, very quick rundown. Mark Alexis Cotier, I'm going to call him Mac for the rest of this video because that's what he's called within his teams and within the company, and it's easier than saying the whole thing. Mac worked at Ubisoft for close to 20 years. He was one of the head honchos working in Quebec for a very long time. I think I met him in passing when I was there for AC Shadows. He was like walking around doing stuff. We said like hi, but I've never like actually spoken to him, but he's like the head honcho guy. He's the one in charge of all Assassin's Creed, literally like franchise director for the last 3 years or so. In 2022, he was given the job to take Assassin's Creed into the next era. Now, what's crucial to understand about all of this, and what I want to get out of the way up front, is to just understand the timelines, okay? So Mac comes in. This is our timeline. This is your entire life. Mac comes in 22, okay? Actually, let's do it this way. Mac comes in 22 and is put in charge of all of AC, okay? So Mac starts. Prior to that, games like AC Hexe were greenlit. Back in like 2019, they were greenlit. So AC Hexe is all the way back here. So Hexe is already greenlit. Games like Mirage, which would come out in 2023, was greenlit back here. So Mirage is greenlit back there. Shadows was greenlit back here. Okay, so all of these like big games and big things came before him. Mac's work since taking over has been on what would happen after Shadows, what would happen in like 2026, 7, 8, 9, 2030, and so on. So he's been in charge of like the big picture stuff. So people who are like, I didn't like AC Shadows, that's Mac's fault. It's not really. Like, yes, he's involved in that studio, so sort of, but the broad strokes vision stuff that he's been working on internally behind the scenes, that we will not see for years to come. But what's interesting is that after he was put in charge of this for the last few years, he's been working on a couple of things, one of which we know and we've seen a lot of, which is the Animus Hub. The Animus Hub was originally leaked as AC Infinity, and that was supposed to be the new big live service platform basically for Assassin's Creed. It was supposed to basically be Call of Duty HQ, where you could boot into all of the Assassin's Creed games. You'd buy a skin in like one game and you can use that skin in another. That's like the idea. To me, it sounds terrible, but we basically bullied them out of doing that. And what we got in the Animus Hub in AC Shadows was very, very bland and lackluster, and is basically just dynamic quests with some like free unlockable skins if you grind enough of these like repeated quest lines and stuff. It was really, really kind of bland, not that remarkable. But it's expected that with AC Hexe, the Black Flag remake, all of that stuff, that's what we're going to see in the next year. And that stuff will utilize the Animus Hub much more directly than Shadows did. All of those, again, greenlit before Mac started his role as head of AC. What it appears Mac's main vision was for AC was that he wanted to have a different game for every subset of the community. So if you have, for example, you have the entire Assassin's Creed audience, what they used to do is they would try to do like AC Valhalla that has something that appeals to multiplayer fans, and then you have maybe some like sort of stealth missions, but they're not very good, and that's meant to appeal to the stealth players. Then you have the big open world players, and you put open world stuff in there to excite them. Then you have fans that like melee combat, so you have melee in there. And then you have, oh, these players really like maybe the really wacky rainbow sparkle skins, so we'll have like, I don't know, we call these
I don't know what we call them. But you basically have a different bubble for everybody within the fandom. So they each get a piece of the pie. And what they used to do was they tried to put one game that would be the everything game, one game that would provide everything to everybody. Mac's vision was to break that up. Mac wanted to break it up so they would have a multiplayer game, and then they would have a stealth focused game, and then they would have a big open world RPG game, and then they have another multiplayer game, and then they have a VR game. And he wanted to break it up into a bunch of little bitty pieces, each one targeting individual subsets of the fan base. So instead of doing the one gigantic game that does everything, you have a bunch of smaller games that do things better, targeting individual groups. And that's been the vision. That's been the vision. And what was interesting is that Marc-Alexis Gauthier, he was basically booted out of Ubisoft in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And he later posted to LinkedIn saying it was not his choice. He did not want to leave, but they basically came to him and said that he was not going to remain in charge of the franchise. What he said was somebody closer to the new organizational structure would take over. We'll get to that in a second. And he said that another position was mentioned, but it would not have included any of the responsibilities, the mandate, nothing. It basically sounds like a demotion. And so he decided to leave, which I don't blame him. I personally don't believe that demotions work in most instances, almost all instances. So he decided to leave, but he made it clear on his LinkedIn post he did not want to leave. He loves Assassin's Creed. He's called Ubisoft home his entire career. This is not what he wanted, but that's what they decided. So Ubisoft executives, but more specifically Vantage Studios executives, decided to push him out. Now you might be like, Luke, what the hell is Vantage Studios? Well, you remember Tencent invested $1.25 billion into a new company called Vantage Studios. And Tencent invested that money to gain 25% ownership, and Ubisoft would hold the rest. So Ubisoft contributed Assassin's Creed, Rainbow, and Far Cry into Vantage Studios, and in turn, all of the studios, all the developers, all the talent, everything. And so Vantage Studios is now owned by Ubisoft and Tencent, and they're in charge of these IP. Ubisoft still is in charge of all their other stuff, of Just Dance, of Tom Clancy stuff, The Division, like they still have all that stuff over there. But this other entity, Vantage Studios, is sort of outside of their bubble. It's basically its own thing, but they still own it and have control of it. And that studio is what's shaking things up and pushed Mac out. Now you might be wondering, Luke, who is running this? Well, the new entity, Vantage Studios, is being run by two people, Christophe Drenet and Charlie Guillemot. Christophe Drenet is this gentleman right here, and he actually does have a pretty storied past. He's worked on Skull and Bones. I mean, you name it, he's worked on it. He's done a ton of stuff. I mean, going back ages. Okay, so he's a game developer through and through. He knows his stuff. Okay, he's been around forever and has worked on pretty much everything. Charlie Guillemot is Yves Guillemot's son, and he previous to this was working on a project that was described as an anime avatar AI NFT startup. I'm not joking. It was called Unagi, and this is what it looked like. This is literally what he was doing before he was handed the keys to this $4 billion company. It's insane. But like, this is literally what he was doing before he was handed the keys to Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry. This is it. The new co-CEO, this was his vision. Okay. Unagi has launched multi-chain Web3 games. Introducing September 2023.
Hannah is the main character of the Persona brand and story. Supercharged agent, cutting edge AI agent with its own proprietary AI agent framework, leveraging the latest innovations. Like, it's an AI NFT girlfriend simulator. Like, what is happening? So this is the guy that thought this looked awesome. This is the guy that's in charge now. And he pushed Mac out to put, in Mac's words, somebody in position who was closer to the organizational structure. Now, I like, every alarm bell in my head is ringing at this point. Not only do I think that the idea that Charlie Guillemot has been put in charge of this is insane. I mean, it just is patently absurd. It's absolutely insane. And as far as I can tell, there's a couple of ways to read the organizational structure comment. On the one hand, it could be that they're going to bring in some of his buddies from his Unagi Games project. He could bring in, as you can see, Charlie Guillemot, co-founder. Maybe he brings in Remy or Pierre or Matthew, and they bring them in as some of his buddies from this project, and they get promoted and they're in charge of all of Assassin's Creed, and Assassin's Creed is turned into a big Web3 NFT nonsense thing. That's one way of reading it, is that it's just people like his buddies. The other way of reading it that some people have brought up that I think is interesting, and this is what I mentioned in that main channel video, excuse me, is the potential for Tencent to bring in somebody that they've hired and that they've worked with for a few years at this point, who has a experience working on massive Assassin's Creed games. And that's Ashraf Ismail. He's been working under a Tencent subsidiary in Montreal for a few years after he was pushed out due to a scandal in 2020. He was the game director on AC Black Flag, on AC Origins, on AC Valhalla, literally some of the most successful Assassin's Creed games in history. He was the game director on. So some people think that Tencent, as part of their influence on this whole thing, have said, get him in position and make him in charge of Assassin's Creed. Doesn't need to be the front-facing, like public-facing person, but get him in charge, because Tencent doesn't care about the scandal. What was the scandal? Long story short, so to be clear, he was not, as far as I'm aware, he was not found guilty of anything in a court. He was not charged with anything, unlike other people within Ubisoft. There were people within Ubisoft who literally were found guilty in a court of like psychological abuse, okay? He was not one of those people. He was not found guilty in a court. So I want to preface with that. But it was alleged that he was using his position as a head honcho within Ubisoft to like go to gaming conventions and then hook up with girls, cheating on his wife, being like, hey, baby girl, do you want to see the next Assassin's Creed game? Well, I direct it. I could tell you all about it. I could show you some screenshots if you come back to my hotel room. Like gross power discrepancy stuff. That's what was alleged. I don't know if that was ever proven or demonstrated to be true, but that's what was brought up. And as a result, he was booted out. There you go. But he was scooped up by Tencent and put in Timmy Studios, and has been working there for a while.
Mr. B donated $19.99 through Super Chat. I have a question about shareholders. Everyone is worried about political correctness now, but Marvel Rivals makes a ton cause of fan service, and my question, do they not like money cause people like hot characters also? Hi.
The discussion around political correctness is vast and actually far more complicated than you might expect. But very long story, as short as I can make it. The argument is basically that a lot of publicly traded companies have massive amounts of their shares held by institutional investors, or by like hedge funds or groups like BlackRock who are buying shares of companies and putting them into financial products known as like ETFs or other funds. Okay. And BlackRock, when they go in there and they choose, we're going to buy Ubisoft, we're going to buy a bunch of EA, we're going to buy a bunch of Microsoft or whatever, they are choosing to do that based on the financial health of the company, sure, but also based on their willingness to adhere to their directives, on BlackRock's desire for either certain political policies or cultural policies or whatever. So BlackRock is like, hey, we really want you to be PC about stuff. BlackRock won't invest and buy your company, buy shares of your company, unless you adhere to their like ethics guidelines and adhere to their checklist of different things. So even though you can make more cash up front by maybe like leaning into Booba and stuff like that, having like really risque character designs, if you want the big institutional investors in the US to buy your company shares, you have to play ball with them and adhere to like BlackRock's guidelines. That's the long and short of it. And it's why having privately held gaming companies, I think, is just really healthy for the industry. It's why everything being publicly traded doesn't necessarily help the industry. I think it can be very helpful to have things that are privately held, that are not contingent on making, you know, big institutional investors like Fidelity, BlackRock, Berkshire, whoever, happy. So anyway. But going back to this, a lot of people think that Tencent, who, let's be honest, they don't really care about any of this. Tencent will go and put Ashraf in position and in charge. Now, honestly, Ashraf, I don't know about the things that were alleged. I don't know if that actually happened, because again, it's alleged. But setting that aside, literally just looking at it in terms of Assassin's Creed as a franchise, he does know what he's doing. And I think what Tencent probably is primarily interested in is getting the franchise to perform well. And so if they're like, hey, what's the best guy for this job? Somebody that knows what they're doing with Assassin's Creed. Oh, he's got kind of a messy history, whatever. I don't think Tencent cares. And they would put him in position. Maybe not a public facing position, a position where he's like doing interviews with people. But they could put him in a senior position to make big decisions. Beyond that, some people have suggested maybe Darby gets handed the position. That would surprise me. I don't think it's Darby's, I don't think it's what Darby would like to do, but maybe you could see that. He's been working with them for a few years, writing stuff, so it's possible. But the point is, with all this stuff, the reason why I've been very, very bummed by the news of Max, maybe not bummed, I'm very, very cynical right now as it pertains to Mac's departure and who's going to replace him. It's just because I've seen Ubisoft is signaling who they're willing to put in charge of this stuff. And it's a series veteran and somebody that's worked on the production side for a very long time. And then it's the CEO's son who has demonstrated that he has no freaking idea what he's doing by working on a big project like Unagi, which is an AI NFT girlfriend simulator, Web3, whatever. I have zero confidence in his capabilities. He, I think, would do a pretty solid job. He'd do just fine. It'd probably be more of the same, frankly. Nothing really would change. But with this guy being the CEO's son and being co-CEO, that makes me very, very worried. So I'm skeptical. It is true that Mac was taking the series in a direction I personally didn't like. I didn't like a lot of the direction with like the Animus Hub and trying to make these games just like the most generic mass market appeal stuff ever. But I personally don't feel that they are going to be putting somebody better in position. And if they do, I will make a video about it and we will celebrate that they put somebody in that knows what they're doing. And who knows, maybe they will put somebody in position who's worked on AC, who's worked on AC for like 20 years and really knows the franchise and loves it and knows all of the lore and is like an original designer from AC2. Maybe we get that. Maybe. I just personally don't think that's very likely. But if we do get that good news, I will celebrate it and we will cheer it on and be all excited about it. But as of right now, the example that we have of leadership is Christophe Drunet and the literal personification of the term Nepo baby, which is like, seriously, if you look up in the dictionary, nepotism, it's just this guy's face. So I'm just not that confident. I'm just not that confident. Yeah, I just, man. So anyway, we will see what happens with all of this, but the current state of Assassin's Creed, I think, is much more shaky now than I think it was even 6 months ago, which is worrisome. I think we will see stuff like Invictus come out. We will see stuff like the Black Flag remake and Hexe, and I expect all of that to probably be pretty good, honestly. I think the Black Flag remake will be really fun to replay that with a lot of new bells and whistles. I think Hexe sounds genuinely very interesting, an Assassin's Creed game, but built and crafted narratively to be much darker and grounded and gritty. Like, that sounds very interesting to me. So I think all of that will be really solid, but it's what comes after that where we'll start to see the impact of this new leadership. And so after that, like 2027 and onward is when we'll actually start to see what's changed. And that's what I'm more worried about. So there you go. There you go. I feel like we should also talk about one of the headlines that is like the most insane thing I've ever seen. Thank you, Pele, for the sub, by the way. Thank you. News, man. So I saw this headline and I'm gonna be real. It broke my brain when I read it. I didn't know how to respond. Xbox wants to be the Rolls-Royce of consoles from IGN, Next Gen Console Watch. And maybe it's just me, but the idea of Xbox framing themselves as like the premium at this point, like console, it's very funny to me. It just doesn't land right. Like the Rolls-Royce of consoles. Okay, let's see. They're not even the oh god, they're not even the Toyota. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. Jacob says, I'm starting to think Xbox might just be incredibly stupid. What the hell does that even mean? I think we'll watch it. I think what they mean is that Xbox is going to have $1,000 console next generation. And so they want to be like the most expensive. They want to be the most premium. And I do think that is what they're going to try to do. But I think Rolls-Royce brings with it a certain brand mystique and prestige that Xbox definitely does not have right now. So we'll see what they say. But that's what I think they're going with.
And according to Xbox President Sarah Bond, we may be looking at a console that costs $1,000 or more. We'll dig into that on Next Gen Console Watch coming up after these messages.
Coming up after these messages. Let's see.
Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show discussing all the latest gaming hardware. I'm Damon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of Podcast Unlocked, and Max Scoville, host of Podcast Beyond. And Microsoft is dropping little hints about its next-gen Xbox, suggesting it will be ultra-premium hardware.
I also have to say, I've watched these guys for so long. I remember being in high school and seeing videos of these dudes. Like, it's so weird to still see them doing this, like, even now. Well, you know, a good bit more gray hair. I'm saying that as somebody that I started getting little gray hairs on the side of my head. It's freaking me out a little bit. But like, it happens to us all. It happens to us all. But it's very funny to see these same guys that I've watched forever and they're still doing it. It's just funny.
Microsoft has promised next-level performance, cutting-edge graphics, breakthrough gameplay, and unmatched compatibility, and said everything it's working on will be fully compatible with users' existing Xbox game library. But how much will it cost, and just how powerful will it be? In an interview with Mashable, Xbox President Sarah Bond talked in vague terms about what Microsoft is going for with its next-gen console, but did suggest it'll be a premium hybrid PC and console. So Bond said, the next-gen console is going to be a very premium, very high-end, curated experience. You're starting to see some of the thinking we have in this handheld, but I don't want to give it all away.
So she points to the handheld as an example of some of what they're thinking. Okay. What are they thinking? What's been rumored is that it's going to be much more PC like than console like. What's rumored is that it will basically be a PC with swappable parts. You will be able to boot into a like Windows experience or into an Xbox interface, which is what's been suggested with the Xbox ROG Ally Xbox X or whatever, is that was kind of the original vision. And they want you to be able to play on any storefront. So you can download Steam to your next generation Xbox. Now, paired with this, and what she also alluded to, was that you will be able to play all of your backwards compatible Xbox games and like series games on that device. So it will play all Xbox games on the device natively, which is something that this cannot do. The ROG Ally Xbox X, whatever, cannot just like boot an Xbox game. It has to be able to like run it. So it's not like one of those things where you see, oh, it's on the Series S, I can play it here. That's not how these PCs work. It's just different. And I don't know, man. I think that there is a market for a couch PC experience that is streamlined and intuitive. And I think that Steam, frankly, should tackle that. Like Steam should have some sort of just all-in-one PC that you plug into your TV, and it has the Steam OS presentation, and it's a pretty powerful PC, but it allows you to just play your Steam games on your TV. I know you can technically do that with Steam Link, and there's, you know, people have a PC hooked up to their TV and everything. But I think an all-in-one package, an all-in-one box from Steam would do very well. I really, really do believe that. I don't know if Xbox is going to be able to nail it the way that they think they will, but let's continue seeing what they have to say.
That's a reference to the recently released ROG Xbox Ally X handle, which costs $1,000. So, Ryan, how do you interpret very premium, very high end?
These executives choose their words very carefully because they know that people are paying attention, and the fact that she chose the word very as another adjective to throw onto premium there just makes the dollar sign amount go up. That's more money. Yeah, it does gel with kind of what's been rumored, what's been going around for a while, that this thing, the next Xbox console, will in fact be more of a hybrid PC/console where you might be able to connect to multiple storefronts. We are seeing exactly that right now in the ROG Xbox Ally, like she referenced, and as you just mentioned, Damon. So I think they're showing us exactly what they're doing. And next step is to take it to a set-top box. And if the Ally X is $1,000, granted, yes, it's a smaller form factor, so there's costs associated with that. But you can bet a set-top box. I mean, I would conservatively put the floor for this thing at $1,200, if in fact we're correct, and that Microsoft is making a hybrid console PC, which, Damon, I'm sure we'll get into. It kind of begs a lot of other questions.
The floor at $1,200. So he thinks the next gen Xbox starts at $1,200. What do you guys think? Do you think there's any world where that happens? I mean, woof. I think this is also so fascinating. And I think part of the reason this feels so like abrupt and sudden is because this past generation, like take it back to 2020, 2021, Xbox was framed as the budget, like cost effective option. So Xbox was selling their consoles, both with the Series X, but also primarily with the Series S, as like, if you don't have a lot of money, get the Series S and get Game Pass. You'll get incredible value. You can get all these games on a cheap piece of hardware. You can get into the next generation of gaming at a very, very approachable price. But the problem, and I think this is what they realize, the problem is when you do that, you build an audience and a customer base that is very, very price sensitive. And you build an audience of people that don't like spending premium dollars on things, which is a problem if you have the CFO of your company tell you you need to increase margins to 30%. That's when you have a problem, because you need to start charging more, and all of a sudden they don't want to charge more. So I think what they're doing now is they're trying to swing the complete opposite way, and their goal for the next generation is for Xbox to be seen as the premium ultimate place to play games. So if you want the best graphically, like most graphically impressive version of a game, you check out what the Xbox version looks like, or what the Steam version looks like, you know. But like ultimately, if you're looking at the console options, it's not the PS5 Pro or the PlayStation 6. It's what does the Xbox look like? Yeah, it's $1,200, so it better look good, but that's what they're ultimately looking for. And that is the same approach Apple has taken, where Apple, of course, sells themselves as the premium product, and their price points are really, really high. But coming with that is sort of a social status that you can afford that brand new iPhone. It's sort of a flex when you have the brand new iPhone the moment that it drops. It's kind of stupid, but that's just how it works. And on premium products, the margins are also, they tend to be much, much higher. So it ends up being much better for them in the long run. So, I mean, $1,200 is pretty steep, but then again, at the same time, right now they are actively selling an Xbox branded console that costs $1,000. So I guess it's not that insane. It just sounds wild to go that high. PlayStation 6 will be $800. I mean, that I don't think is insane. I think I'm more of the mind that like $700 is what they're looking at. But yeah, I mean, by the time we get it in a year or two, yeah, we might not be looking that far off from that.
So how do you feel about that? Because if this is their out there going, it really would sort of differentiate themselves from PlayStation and Nintendo, obviously. And I don't know. I don't feel that mad about it, because it's like, if they're going to create, you know, a nice PC, close to a high-end PC, that's just an easy to use Xbox experience at your TV. I mean, that's what the price would cost. I don't know. I don't feel that worked up about it. How about you?
I feel the same way. Honestly, it's like, look, they've acknowledged, I mean, Phil Spencer has acknowledged that they have acknowledged that they've lost the console war. Like, it's over. Right. And the numbers have unfortunately continue to get worse for them this generation. So, but what we also know to be true, even separate from Microsoft's own mistakes that have led them to being in last place in the so-called console war, is that consoles are not growing. PC gaming is growing. And so to me, this hint that she's given here suggests that they are not even going to attempt to compete with Sony or Nintendo with their next generation hardware. And instead, as you noted, Damon, they are going for a sort of set-top PC, you know, almost what Steam machines tried to do years ago, which will probably run, again, a more evolved version of the software that's on the ROG Xbox Ally X now. Of it, there's an Xbox layer, but then you can connect to other storefronts, and they are going after the growing PC market. So it'll be a very, very expensive console, but maybe a very, very affordable, relatively potent, powerful gaming PC. And I think that could be wise. Now, you can trace...
I mean, I think there's also been a trend in the last 5 years or so. A lot of people are willing to spend a lot more money on their hobby as they get entrenched in it. And so, like, we're seeing PC gamers willing to spend a lot more money on graphics cards. We're seeing console gamers willing to spend a lot more money on their consoles, upwards of $1,000 for a handheld, or you know, $750 for PlayStation 5 Pro. And so I think that maybe the lean into the premium side of it is not that insane when they're looking at their metrics. Like, there's a lot of people out there that I think would buy it. And my stance has been, and I've said this for a while, I do think that there is a
large group of people out there that desire a truly premium console experience. And I don't mean like the $700 PS5 Pro. It looks sort of better if you have a 100-inch TV. Other than that, you might not be able to really tell. I mean like people that are willing to spend $1,200 on a PlayStation 5 Ultra or truly Pro that is a super premium device that actually looks and feels quantifiably better than the base console. I do think that there is an audience for that. I think there's a lot of them actually, like young adults or even middle-aged adults who are gamers, who have expendable income. Gaming is their hobby, and they'd be willing to spend money on it. A lot of people say build a PC. I'm a PC player. I mean, I obviously would agree with that. But there's a lot of people that really, really love gaming that just are not interested in PC gaming, that just are frankly more interested in the ease of console gaming and plug it into the TV and they play the games. Like they want to spend money. They're willing to spend money on their stuff, but they are not interested in PC gaming. And that's what I think Xbox is going to start to explore. And I think what Sony is also going to start to explore is just that potential. It's all about value for money. It doesn't matter the price as much as the representation of value for money. Oh, sure. Well, mandatory subscriptions, that's where I think you can start to get frustrated, Omar. I'll absolutely agree with you on that. But to be clear, there's sort of people, you say in this economy, the crazy thing about the economy right now is I just saw a metric. It was something stupid, like 51% of all retail spending in the last quarter came from the top like 2% of earners. Which basically just means that 50% of all spending on everything came from very wealthy people. So people who didn't have a lot of money were not spending very much money. They were not going out shopping, even though there's a lot more poor people than there are rich people. The rich people were spending so much money that it ended up looking just fine on the bottom line. And I think that that's kind of what's happening in the gaming space too, where there's a lot of people that have expendable income on the top end, are willing to spend a lot of money on a high-end PC or high-end consoles or whatever. But there's also people that are being left behind on the lower end of the scale that are being priced out with things like massively expensive consoles, with games that are going up in price significantly, subscription models are going up in price significantly. But these companies, ultimately, they just care about the bottom line. So they're like, yeah, if we price out the people that don't have money to spend, but we price in the wealthy people that are willing to spend a lot of money, that's better for us. So they just don't really care. I think that's basically what's happening.
This all the way back and say, well, they would never even be in this position if they hadn't made all the mistakes in the last two generations. Maybe they'd still be going toe-to-toe with Sony and they'd have a stronger place in the console market. Totally get that. We can have that discussion. But they are where they are because of the choices they've made. And given where they are, this actually could be the best path forward for them. And it could be I don't know if it's the best path forward for the industry in the sense of, will Sony have any real competition at all, kind of in the traditional console space? Now, this next Xbox, even if it is a hybrid PC/console, it's still going to run most of the same games that the PlayStation 6 will. But yeah, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I joked earlier today when we were talking about the show that they want to be the new Neo Geo. But it's not that different, actually. In the 90s, the Neo Geo was the ultra premium console. It provided the exact arcade experience at home. I think it was like $700, and the games were $100 or $200 each. Yep. But like, we gamers weren't mad about that. We dreamed of being able to afford a Neo Geo and having the best experience possible. Max, rumors about the PlayStation 6 suggest something completely different. That it would come in 3 models: a base PS6, a PS6S that would be a little less powerful but also less expensive, and then also a dockable handheld version that would be somewhere in between and compete directly with Nintendo Switch 2. completely different from what we're sort of hearing Microsoft would plan. What do you make of all this?
I think they've always been playing slightly different games. I mean, it's funny because the Xbox began as a DirectX box. It was a way of streamlining with the Windows gaming experience on a console, and it seems almost like they're sort of moving back that direction. Sony hasn't really altered course that much, aside from allowing some of their games to be playable on PC, which presumably, if this rumored premium Xbox thing is open to multiple storefronts, you could conceivably get Steam games on there, so you'd be playing Ghost of Tsushima or whatever on a Xbox product, which we're already seeing with the ROG Ally. I guess I'm curious, where would it fall if this Xbox thing is sort of a hybrid PC Xbox experience? How much of a PC will it be? How much of an Xbox will it be? How is it going to kind of connect those dots? Because the second it becomes just unabashedly a PC, I don't think it's competing with Sony at all, because Sony makes this streamlined consumer facing sort of walled garden. Like you don't have to worry about drivers and system updates and turning off the widgets in your taskbar or whatever, which is, I know some stuff that some people checking out the Ally X for the first time were like, this doesn't really feel like Xbox. This feels kind of like Windows 11, because it is.
Yeah, for me, I think that's what it comes down to. It has to be streamlined like that for it to be interesting. Like I have no problem with driver updates and stuff, but I do really like on consoles the fact that I can just press the power button and play a game. And if I have automatic updates installed, everything should be installed and ready to go the moment that I hit the power button, and I'm good to go. That's really, really convenient. A lot of people really, really like that. And if they can solve the problem of like creating a PC scalable console that can play any game on any storefront, like on Steam, but give you the experience of a console, that will work wonders. And that's sort of what Steam did with the Steam Deck, is they actually managed to solve that feeling in the handheld space. And it's why I really would hope that Steam would have an answer to this. If Steam has like a Steam console that they could put out that offers that experience all in one package, man, that would be fantastic. I'd be very, very excited to see that, but I guess time will tell.
And I mean, that's all very well and good. Like, I think there's ups and downs to both of these approaches. I don't know. It's interesting because like Sony and Nintendo are playing very different games, but obviously Sony, if they start putting out a hybrid console that is competing with the Switch, that is some amount of competition there, even if they're kind of trying to appeal to entirely different markets. Damon, to your point about the Neo Geo, yes, I think that there is room for premium stuff in this market. There is the possibility of having, very high end stuff. The key difference between, what maybe didn't work out so hot for the Neo Geo in the 90s and what companies are capable of doing now is they can get a better sense of exactly how many units they need to manufacture. I know that, companies will get some flack if they put up like, crowdfunding, campaigns. People are like, why do you need to make a Kickstarter? And it's like, no, really, they need to figure out exactly how many of these things they need to make so they're not losing money by them sitting on store shelves. I mean, that's pretty much how Valve handled the Steam Deck. They took pre-orders, they figured out exactly how many people are going to give them exactly how much money to make these things. And that way it's not, it's not this kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I could very easily see Xbox take a similar approach where they're like, hey, you want to get this thing? Here's how much it costs. Here's where you can sign up. I mean, that's kind of what happened with the ROG Ally,
Yeah. Also, we've done it, ladies and gentlemen. After 5 years of the show, we got a Neo Geo commercial on Next Gen Console Watch. So, and there was much rejoicing. Ryan, is there any chance are the Asus ROG Xbox Ally X is
They also need better naming conventions, for the love of God.
It's out, apparently, doing well according to Xbox. Any chance Microsoft takes the same approach with the next Xbox as it does with the Ally X, meaning let a third party make it while Xbox provides the software?
No, not yet. I mean, that they shot that down pretty hard recently, saying that in no uncertain terms they'll be making their own hardware developed internally. They've got this long-term partnership with AMD. So, might someone besides Microsoft make the next generation handheld, whether that's just Asus again with a successor to the ROG Ally X, entirely possible. But yeah, I think as far as the home machine itself, that is going to be a Microsoft designed and Microsoft built product.
Gotcha. Well, amidst all these price increases for Xbox,
Yeah, I think they'll be willing to license out more and more. Again, the example I've thought of is, or that it makes me think of, is just the Surface laptops. Like, they're going to have their own Surface laptops, but they also will put the Windows name on all sorts of different things. Probably tighter than Windows has been, where they're, of course, putting it on pretty much anything. But I do think that they're going to open it up a lot.
They've increased the price of Series X and S twice this year. They just increased the price of Game Pass Ultimate. Now it's sounding like their next console will be much more expensive. Sony has just knocked $125 off the PS5 on a limited time deal, I think running through Halloween. So yeah, you can get $125 off the PS5 digital or the slim version right now. So that's a great deal. I mean, if anyone out there has been on the fence about a PS5, now is the time. Max, what's going on with this? It's not even Black Friday.
Right? I love to do all my Christmas shopping before Halloween. Totally normal way to do that. Yeah, this is odd. It also, in traditional Sony fashion, hasn't been properly communicated much.
Right.
So
I
it
didn't
would
know
be
about
cool
that.
if this was a more permanent price cut, if they did that, because it would remind me of, not to be too nostalgic, but of previous console generations where games got, consoles got less expensive over time. But yeah, I mean, remains to be seen if at the very least the upside to them really raising the price so much on a permanent level is that they look like such a good guy when they do, like, hey, we're having a crazy sale, this is great. And it's cool.
It's a good harbinger for actual Black Friday too. If they're doing this kind of sale now, it means there's probably a good chance they're going to do something as good or better come Black Friday.
Yeah, viewers, listeners, if you've been wanting a PS5, right now is the time to buy direct from PlayStation.
Did you remember when they first revealed the PlayStation 5 and like we saw the look of it? It was so freaking weird looking, especially coming off of the PS4 era. Like, what the hell is this? What is that thing? Why is it shaped like that? Why does it look like that? It was such a bizarre design choice, but it was also more exciting.
I think there's just a
Than
special
just like a
code you have
box.
to input at checkout. Just do a little search.
I will say, I still think that the PS4 Slim and then the PS4 Pro were goated because it's literally like the double decker sandwich, and then you do the triple decker sandwich for the Pro. I thought those consoles still, I think, look fantastic.
Search for that. Okay, we've got a new poll to vote on for next episode. What's the scariest video game horror franchise? Next episode will be going live.
Okay, I think overall, them calling it the Rolls-Royce of consoles, other than it just being freakishly expensive, is interesting. Because when I hear Rolls-Royce, I think of like ultra premium quality. And I've not gotten the vibe that that's what the next Xbox is going to be. I'm getting the vibe that it's just going to be really expensive. Like, maybe it does have incredible performance and it justifies that, but I've just not seen that personally. So I wouldn't call it Rolls-Royce. I think what they're going to try to do is they're trying to shake the perception that they are the brand associated with like affordability, with low cost, because that's not what they want anymore. They don't want people coming to them because they think that they have the cheapest offerings. They want people to come to them because they have the best offering in terms of Game Pass, or they have Call of Duty, or they have, all of these other games available on cross-platform stuff, with like buy here, play anywhere, which is genuinely a really cool feature for some of these games. Buy it on Xbox, you can play it on your PC or on your console, on your couch. That's genuinely really, really cool. And so I think that they are going to try to just shift into being more of a premium brand, which I think is a better route to go. I also think for us, it probably means that there will be less of a lowest common denominator. This Xbox Series S, I think without a doubt, has held back this generation for cross-platform games, because anything that runs has to be able to run on the Series S, and that's definitely held back some of these games from being able to do everything they want to do. But
next generation, it sounds like, based on the rumors, it could actually be Sony that takes that route, where they're rumored, as they suggested, to have a handheld device and or a smaller PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6S type console, which is a smaller Series S like console that's cheaper and weaker, but therefore more affordable. So it's going to be very, very interesting. This next generation is going to be unlike anything any of us have ever seen. It's going to be weird. It's not going to look like a typical console generation or console launch. They might not even be launching at the same time. There's reason to believe that they may actually launch staggered from each other, because historically we've gotten the Xbox and PlayStation launching at the same time. Might not be the case this time around. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see, but it's going to be very different. Very, very different. Samine, thank you for that super chat. If this opens up a market for this sort of devices, is it not inevitable that someone makes a more reasonable option for like half the price one day? Well, it's going to be true always, but the goal is that they just get you entrenched in the ecosystem. So if you're entrenched and you own all of your games on Xbox or on PlayStation or Steam, even though there may be a more affordable option elsewhere or a better value proposition elsewhere, because you're entrenched in the ecosystem, that brings with it inherent value. So it's like, yeah, I could swap over to that other console or to that other platform, but my library's here. And so that's worth some amount to me that doesn't make up, you know? Fernando, thank you for the 5. I'm happy the Series S held back the gen. We already have crap optimization how it is. Imagine these guys without having to worry about the Series S. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I think just in general, post-COVID, a lot of publishers have been trying to just shove stuff out quickly, and they're trying to get games running good enough instead of well. And it's why we should celebrate when we see games that are well optimized. It's why you should see a KCD2 and you should cheer and shout from the rooftops at how great it is, because that game is fantastically well optimized. They want to be the Apple of consoles, but they lack the reputation. So if this new Xbox is really a high-end hardware, I think it is not really high-end hardware. I think it will fail. Yeah, it's becoming the Apple of any industry takes years and years and years of really intense and careful, I think, marketing and presentation and manufacturing, and people have to see it and believe it by putting their hands on the product and seeing that it just feels more premium. And we've all felt it. Like if they included, instead of a regular Xbox controller, they had the Elite 2s, like these premium controllers, and these came in the box with every new Xbox, and the packaging was really premium, and it also has the best performance of any console, then that would feel truly premium and people would be willing to pay that premium price. But you have to follow it all the way through. And I think you can't just slap a high price tag on something and call it premium. Like the product itself has to be premium as well, you know? That's a problem. So Apple isn't even Apple anymore. They destroyed their reputation. Dude, Apple, it's gotten so sad. It's gotten really sad. It's just, I used to be like the Apple dude, the Apple bro. I used to follow like all of their presentations, and I used to buy every new phone the moment it dropped. And I was always so excited to see what they were doing. But now there's just not much reason. It's just not that exciting. You know what I am excited about? What I'm really hopeful for is the new Samsung Trifold. Yeah. It's rumored to be coming soon. A full trifold phone, dude. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Why do you need that, Luke? I don't know, but I want it. It's exciting. It's exciting. New watch? No, this is the same Seiko that I wear a lot. It's just tried and true. It can get beaten up, and I don't feel too bad about it. Yeah, Windows Central reports on the next generation of Xbox consoles curated gaming PC that Xbox aims to feel like a traditional console. Online multiplayer paywall removed, which would be a good move. Xbox console library, native backwards compatibility, premium strong hardware, whatever that means. AI powered technologies like auto super resolution and next gen frame generation, which of course they want. I mean, it's all kind of like no duh. So my goodness. Didn't you return the double fold? No, I have the Z Fold now. I did have a Z Fold. What would that have been? I had the 3 back in the day, and I really liked it. It was quite good. I had the 3 for a long time, and then I went back. I got like the Z Fold or or S25 Ultra, S24 Ultra before that, S23 Ultra before that. But I swapped back to the Fold for this generation, and I am liking it. It took a while to get used to. It's a very different vibe, but they finally made the front screen big enough that it's usable. When it was all super narrow, it was just like really, really annoying. But anywho, guys, I have some more stuff to go through, but I'm starting to feel my voice get a little more weak, so I'm not going to push it. So I'll call the stream there. And I'll be back tomorrow or Wednesday, and we'll continue rocking and rolling. I just don't want to push it. Hopefully my voice is fully back to normal by then. That's the hope. I just don't want to lose it and then be like, oh, it's got to take another few days off, guys. I want to stay on it. Okay. But thank you guys for being with me today. You guys are amazing. Really, really appreciate you guys hanging out and chilling and being patient while I recovered and was sounding like a smoker. So I appreciate you guys. I will be back very, very soon. Until next time, my friends, much, much love. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.